Welcome to OSRPG presents a Blades in the Dark story, episode 11. We are really excited to bring you episode 11. Holy crap, cast. We are already at episode 11. This is insane. I remember, 6 months or even longer before when this was still just sort of a brain baby, as it were. And it's just awesome to see the channel grow, to have all of you here with us. And to just take part in all of these awesome stories that I've seen the players engaging in, they've created themselves, and a few of the stories that I've tried to implement here and there. But anyways, we're going to get going first with introductions. So we're going to start out with Angela, as we always do. Take it away, Angela.
I am Angela, also known as Gangrel Kitty, and I'll be playing Reaper tonight. Almost said Lilith. Wrong game.
I know, right?
Hello, I'm Ryan. I'll be playing the part of Martin MacCalister, and hope to put on a good show for you.
I'm Doug. I'm playing Ezra Arcady, otherwise known as Blinder.
And I'm Xylus, and I'll be playing Carver.
Awesome. And of course, I'm Michael. I'll be your storyteller tonight, Game Master, Dungeon Master, whatever term you prefer. And as I said, welcome to our Blades in the Dark stream. Just a quick thing for those of you out there so that you know, we do have all of our content on YouTube. Right now, as a channel, we are trying to get to 100 subscribers. That is basically our goal right now, and we are at 31 subscribers. Our goal is to hit 100 so that we can create a custom URL. So that's like the first sort of benchmark we're pushing for. So make sure to check out the stuff, hit that subscribe button, like the videos if you like them. We could really use the support. So, okay. Well, with that, let's tell a Blades in the Dark story. Last week, in episode 10, our cast of characters had stood over the destruction of the fight with the toads. They'd found themselves victorious. In the exchange that happened when Blinder had decided that perhaps the best choice would be to prove that they could take life, if needed, in order to defend their territory, in order to defend their livelihood. Martin talked him down, it seemed, at least for the moment, and Blinder left into darkness. The remaining characters that stayed behind at Welsh and Sons in the several minutes that followed were then put into a position where they had to escape. They broke apart as a group, descending into shadows, descending into alleyways, to rooftops, to hovels and holes, moving through buildings with the lamp light of the bluecoats always nipping at their heels. It took them a while, but they finally were able to avoid any sort of attention from the bluecoats and the wardens, who had apparently seen over the body that had passed. In time, though, as the bluecoats realized there was nothing to be found, it seemed something had been found. Martin, with his keen eye, historically, as a child, knowing the ins and the outs of hiding your valuables. He saw something in a building that he found far on the northern side of the small neighborhood known as Pond Street. He found a nook. At first, he thought it was a hideaway simply for drugs or currency or weapons. And in time, as he investigated further, he realized that it was a vast, hidden underground hideaway. It was simple, yes, stone walls, almost prison-like in a lot of ways, dark and dingy, but it was purposefully built. The crew is unsure of who built it, but in time they all found each other, and Martin led them back to this hideaway. They determined that for the time being, because Pond Street was going to be the first place that they set down their roots, that this hideaway would most likely serve as their hidden lair. It would be, at least for the time being, their place of immediate business, where they would engage in jobs in other districts, bringing their goods and stolen gains secretly back to it. Days passed, and as the individual characters engaged in their day-to-day passing, Reaper visiting Aldo, Martin buying new accoutrements to his suits and to his wardrobe, Blinder staring into the face of the very nature of his abilities, and Carver watching nearby, questioning what it was that Blinder was toying with. As those 2 days passed, in the very early morning, at dawn, a man that they had seen before, a 7th man that they had seen interacting with the Toads, walked through Pond Street, walked up to Welsh and Sons Butchery, the former headquarters, in a sense, of the Toads before their defeat at the hands of our characters. And the man with the top hat took an old meat hook, stabbing a piece of paper to the doorway. The crew investigated, and it simply said Tankletown, dusk. In time and in questioning, the crew would come to find out that Tankletown was a place. It was a place in Crowsfoot, a place far into the center of one of the largest canalways, a moored Leviathan hunting ship set into the very earth and soil that the water passes over, stuck there a very long time ago. And since then, it slowly built through dockways and boats being fastened to it and rafts and things floating. A flotilla, if you will, connected to this old rusted vessel. And that is where we find our characters. They find themselves walking step by step across rickety old rope and wood bridges set between these various flotation devices, some of them boats, some of them old logs that had been brought in, wrapped with floating buoys, some of them small ships set underneath, almost pontoon style, of larger platforms laid out. It is a vast labyrinth of this type of construction, almost a mini city unto itself. They are told that this territory, this place, is considered sacred to the gangs of Crowsfoot. It is neutral ground. And so they hope that that neutrality will continue. The characters find themselves walking. Where do you go? Mercy is there with you, I would point out, as she said she would be. Blinder.
I would assume that we had probably made arrangements to procure or rent maybe, or get taxied. I don't think a normal gondola ride would take you out to this place. So I would imagine that if anything, Blinder will suggest that perhaps we should like rent our own vehicle for the day, as it were, or buy one if we want to spend the money. I mean, because we will need one eventually.
Sure. Buying one in a day isn't too hard. We can say that you're able to find a gondolier. You, as a crew, had traveled to Crowsfoot, the vast melting pot district of the city, and you eventually found a gondolier that didn't seem busy. You offered them a pretty decent price. I would ask that one member of the crew gives up a full coin, if someone is willing to do so.
Don't have it to give it up.
Carver will do it.
Okay, so Carver gives up a decent-sized purse of silver, and the gondolier asks simply, "Please don't break my ship," and then steps off of it, leaving it to you for the day. It's slow going. You eventually had made your way to Tangletown, and for those of you that are uncomfortable on the ship, or pushing the stick, as the old gondoliers would do, finding yourself at least on somewhat solid ground, as each of you are stepping now onto the docks and rickshaw pontoons of Tangletown, is a welcome sight.
So, which way are we supposed to go to find these guys?
I don't know. Maybe we just start asking around for bill hooks.
Decent enough idea.
And with
I'll
that,
walk-
Martin. Oh, I was going to say, Martin kind of gives a look around. Are there people close to where we are, or?
Yeah, and not so much that they're standing on the dock in your way or anything, but there are people as you step onto it. As I had said, it is very much like a miniature town unto itself.
Right.
Not only are there these sort of permanent structures that have been established as part of Tangletown, but there are also boats and things of that variety constantly moving up to it in the way of gondolas, people coming, people going, people selling goods. It has this sort of bizarre feel to it. So yes, there are people. You walk a short distance ahead, and you eventually find yourself in a somewhat rickshaw sort of bazaar, in that sort of way that you might see someone like throw a blanket down on the ground, and then sell their wares from it. There's that sort of vibe.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm trying to find where I can talk to the bill hooks. I don't know where they hole up.
I've heard of them. Some crews have places they go, boats they come in on, things of that nature. I can't say I'm specifically familiar with where they would be, but pretty sure if you keep asking around, you'll eventually find someone. I do know where the red sashes hang out, if that's any help.
That may be of some help. Where would they be at?
Mercy at that point sort of steps in. She's like, I know where that is. I can take you there, Martin.
Okay. Wasn't saying we should go there. Just looking.
Sure.
Okay. So continue to ask around for the
Before you
hooks.
leave, the man with the blanket is like, well, a fine necklace for you, sir. And you see this sort of, beaded style jewelry that's, the craftsmanship is okay, but it's definitely not a master craftsman of any variety.
Right. Martin will peruse his goods, kind of look around, and be like, "Yeah, I'm not sure right now, but give me a few, and I'll see if I make my way back." Actually, you know what? That one looks right, kind of pretty right there. Kind of points at a little silver onyx ring if he has one.
Sure.
All right. And I will count out the last of my change, basically.
Yeah, we'll say it's a very simple silver ring. Like, it's very thin, but he's, wrapped some things around it to make the ring a little bigger. you know?
Right.
And then it has a sort of like onyx colored stone of some variety that doesn't necessarily seem like an actual precious stone. It just seems to contain that sort of color to it, as though
Right.
it's been very well polished or painted or even stained in some variety. But yeah, you're able to, you know, give him a silver or two for it, and he gladly hands you the ring.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and you have an excellent day.
You too,
And
sir.
he slips it onto, like, I imagine it's going to fit on, like, his pinky finger.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Just kind of slides it on there. Ooh, that's a little tight. And just continue to ask around, trying to find...
Just to sort of fluidly move through, you continue asking around. And then eventually someone tells you that, yeah, I think I've seen the billhooks, or at least one of them. Maybe a few of them. When they do come onto Tangletown, they hang out at this old double-sided pontoon. It's over kind of on the northeast side.
Thank you very much.
And you eventually find your way there. And what you see as you're starting to approach is what looks like one of those old pontoon boats, you know, the ones with the big, long pontoons, and it has sort of a net between it. It seems like someone set pieces of wood across it, almost like a dock. And so it's created this relatively open, wide, almost flat, obviously not perfectly flat. And there's this sort of give and take to the current and the waves that are moving. So there's this sort of wobbly nature to it, as though the floor itself is not quite perfectly solid, but it's at least relatively flat. And as you approach, you see a woman and about 10 other people sitting in chairs, some of them standing. They're all passing around drinks, and they seem to be enjoying themselves, talking, chatting, laughing. The vast majority of them seem to be adorned in clothes that would look like hard workers, labor force, factory workers. Their clothes are not dirty, though. Not dirty in that greasy sort of way. You do see that there are old stains on them, though, but the stains are red, as though they tried to wash out presumably blood of some variety. The vast majority of them are wearing weapons. So most of those weapons are meat hooks. Several of them have hatchets, like hand hatchets that they wear on their belts. And then a couple of them you see are holding like almost like spears, like long spears that aren't super long, more of a short staff style of spear, but it still has that sort of polearm appeal to it, a vibe to it. You know, basically a long stick with a long pointed edge on it, or blade on it, or something of that variety.
Blinder will, but just before, as we're walking up, as I, Mr. Well, he'll speak generally to the three. He's like, person back there seemed to know about being. People hear me know more than we think they do, or have assumptions about us. Let's just try to keep focused on getting through this and holding our ground, but not escalating situations beyond control. And let's try to support each other, whoever. Let's all play our roles. Yeah. Be very careful.
That's why I hadn't planned on talking.
Before we go in, Blinder, you're going to be my advisor. We're going to speak to each other quietly. Carver and Martin are going to stand there and look tough. Carver, I didn't know if you had anything to say. Were you going to do the speaking? Because I was going to.
I don't mind either way.
Okay. So when we come in, if there's seats, I'm going to immediately take a seat. I'm not going to wait for them to let me sit. If there's a seat next to me, Blinder, go ahead and take it. Carver and Martin, like I said, look tough.
Not a hard job for me, but I think Carver got it.
Mr. Martin, if we do need to aggress or be more aggressive, I will gesture towards you at that to say something in your typical vein. You're rather good at intimidating individuals. Let's just keep that gun loaded. And Mr. Carver, I've noticed you are quite perceptive when you need to be. The attention will be focused on Reaper and myself, what we are saying and doing. But I would like to gain as much information about these individuals should we have to do something in the future. If you could just be perceptive and perhaps see what you can do to glean some more information about these opponents of ours.
I got you.
Did you ever find out? Do we remember what the name of the gang that they kick up to is called? Because I forgot.
I imagine that they kick up to the Crows.
The Crows, that's what it was.
Mercy chimes in at that point. Yeah, Martin's right. It's the Crows. They're the big boss around here.
Think.
Those are actually
Okay, we ready?
crows over there, Mercy says as she points, and you see off in the distance across a few, sort of ships and docks, and they're sort of rickshaw buildings. You see a few individuals wearing what seems like sort of street clothes, but a little bit nicer. Like rain jackets and things of that variety, and they're standing up on what seems like almost like a loft building. If you just cut the top of it, it's sort of like the top of a building looking out over it, but it's only a few stories high, and they're sitting there and they're sort of looking over Tangletown. You see them talking and things. You can't see a whole variety of detail or make out really what they're saying because, as I had said, it is distance away, but you can at least see the people that Mercy is gesturing towards.
I have an idea, and stop me if you think this is crazy. What if we undercut the billhooks and talk to the Crows first?
And then have an angry gang whose specialty is murder?
With the Crows backing, we won't have an angry gang. Well, they'll be angry, but they won't be able to do anything.
We don't know the relationship between the Crows and the billhooks, other than the fact that one pays up to another. For all we know, they could be staunch allies, or playing the part of enemies. Let us learn what we can about the person in front of us first.
Okay, fair. All right, so we will walk towards where the billhooks are. Like we own the place.
Okay. You start walking down the pathway. Pardon me. You start walking down the pathway, stepping across planks and things of that variety, until you eventually find yourselves a few feet away from this, the last sort of bridge that leads to this pontoon. And as you're approaching, you've now separated yourself from the rest of the crowd of people moving and meandering and things of that variety. You notice that other than these 11 people, there are no other individuals nearby. So you presume that either all of those people are part of a gang, or they're just a bunch of random people hanging out with what you had been told the billhooks, where the billhooks are. And so as you approach, a few of them perk up. They turn and notice you. A few of them sort of elbow others to get their attention. And then as you're approaching, all of them now are looking at you. You step down the platform onto the pontoon. Now the four of you, 5 including Mercy, stand in front of what you presume to be 11 members of the Billhooks gang.
I will open my hands and stand there and then let them know that we are here. We're answering Clifton Withers' call.
You see him, in fact, standing over on one side. You didn't see him at first because he was sort of looking away, and then you notice the top hat, and he turns when you say that name, and you see him. They look at Clifton. Clifton looks at a woman who everyone seems to be taking some sort of mention from, like they're all kind of waiting bated breath on her. She's sitting down in a chair. A few others are sitting in chairs, and she has her feet resting up on another chair. She drops her feet, kicks the chair at its legs, it slides, hitting portions of the thing, kind of falling and tumbling, but it sort of lands close to you in a tumbled manner.
I'm going to take it and, oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I'm going to take the seat elegantly as if she had pulled it out for me.
Sure.
There's only the one chair. There's only the one chair. Is there another place to
She
sit?
so far has kicked the chair to you. I mean, there's like boxes and things, you know, so you guys could like sort of grab something like that to sit on, but there are no other like actual chairs that have been sitting here placed out for you that weren't that aren't being sat on by the members of the gang currently.
Blinder will find a smaller box, so when he sits, even though he's tall, he'll seem like he's shorter than Reaper,
or as short as he can be without basically being like squatting on the ground, kind of a thing.
Yeah, and
okay.
he'll just like he'll take a very meek stance. Yeah, okay. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, Martin stands behind Reaper on her left. You know, doing the arms crossed, kind of puffing up a little bit.
Tough guy stance. Okay.
Exactly.
Carver
is gonna remain standing, and he is definitely gonna keep his hands within a few inches of any of the blades that he might have tucked away on his person.
Sure.
And he is going to look over each of the individuals and try to assess a battle plan, really.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you were trying to assess their relative capability or if you were just sort of like trying to figure out what you do, just in case. I mean, just a quick thing. Obviously, you can run back up the way that you came. You could jump off the side into the water. You could, you have sort of a wall set to one side of like rickshaw walls and buildings and a ramp. So worst case, you guys could sort of parkour your way up it if you needed to or something of that variety. Albeit, you know, with 11 members of their gang, they might try to surround you or something. So it would depend upon how things end up going down would probably determine your actions at that time. So until you know what they might do, it's hard to tell. So you all take your seats, take your stances, etc. And the woman just watches you all do it. She, once you've all finished sitting down, standing, taking your poses, etc., she stands up. She grabs the chair. She walks several feet towards you, turns the chair around, sets it down almost right in front of Reaper, and then sits in that way, like, you know, you're sitting with your chest against the back of the chair in that sort of backwards chair fashion. And she rests her hands right on top of it, and she's just sitting there, and she's just right in Reaper's gaze now, just eye and eye, basically locked in.
While I love staring contests, I know that everybody pays up to somebody else. Now what I need is terms. How are we going to operate so that we can kick up to you? Because apparently this is your territory, correct?
Tangletown?
Yeah.
Tangletown's not our territory. Tangletown's neutral ground.
Not this territory. I'm talking about Pond Street.
Pond Street's not ours. The Toads, up-and-comers out of Dunslow. They're one of our gang's cousins. And they want to make a name for themselves. They wanted to be hooks. So we gave them a chance. We said, show us what you can do. So they decided to go to the worst place, do what they could do, and a few weeks later, I have a bunch of pond snakes sitting in front of me. That's what you called yourself, right? The pond snakes?
The Risen.
Risen. The name I'd heard, or at least the name people had given you, was because you kicked the shit out of the toads, so what eats toads? Snakes. I thought it was cute, but I guess you having a different name makes a little more sense. The Risen. Interesting name. We're the Hooks, Bill Hooks. Obviously, you probably heard of us.
We have.
It's good. So Dunstan's not ours. I mean, if you want to work out the same deal the Toads worked out with us, sure. Seems like you're pretty good at whatever you do. And, I guess the only question that's remaining then is, can you pay?
So if Dunslow's not yours, what are we paying for exactly?
Well, you see, the Toads worked out a deal with us that if they took a neighborhood for themselves and they paid up to us, that we would give them protection. We'd back them up against other smaller gangs, but you swooped in when we were not around and gave them an ass whooping. Just an absolute beautiful ass whooping. I have to be real about it. I mean, I feel sorry for your cousin, Tommy, she says, pointing to one of the gang members, but that was a fine piece of work.
Thanks.
Martin beams with pride.
So you're obviously in Dunslow, so you're out of our territory. We honestly don't give a shit. But I mean, if you wanted to work out the same deal the Toads was going to work out with us, I mean, I'd be good with that. I think Corin would be good with that, she says. She doesn't look over when she says that, but you realize every other member of the gang looks over at this younger man that you see standing off sort of to the far side. That's sort of, he's one of the other people that's sitting down, and he's sort of just quietly contemplating. He's listening, he's taking you in. You notice him, once that sort of attention is drawn to him, you notice that he's looking all of you as though he's sizing each and every one of you up. He's looking like Carver. If you looked over, it seems like he might have, you see his eyes sort of dart down to one of your knives, to the bulge in your pocket that might be the other. The attention sort of turns back to the woman speaking to you when she starts talking. I'm Aaron. I would introduce the whole crew, but names and names and names, that'll go on forever. I mean, sure, there's only 11 of us, but the truth is that you only really need to know my name. And technically Corin's name, but... So if you want to enter a deal with us that the Toads had done, we'd be good with that. They'd offer us a pretty sweet deal, too. I guess my question would be then is, are you trying to become hooks? Because that's what the Toads were trying to do.
No, we're not. We're not trying to become hooks. We just wanted to make sure we weren't stepping on anybody else's toes when we delivered the Toads back to their pond.
Dunslow's a weird place, you see. Bluecoats and Ironhook got that place by the balls. So it's hard to muscle in and get any sort of money out of it. It's really, really hard. I mean, if that's a risk you're all willing to take, is that where you're going to be operating now? Is that, seems to be the talk of the town.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't expect you to agree to the deal, especially not immediately. I also expect that now that people find out that you're a free agent and you don't actually work for us or work for somebody else, because, you know, there's always ears listening around here, she says, and you do notice that during this meeting, more and more people have been peeking out from buildings and windows and things, almost like there's this sort of energy in the air, like they're all waiting on bated breath, expecting bloodshed to just burst out at any moment. So, take your time, think about it. It could be good for you. I mean, even if you didn't want to become hooks, I mean, sure, we're not the biggest gang at Crow's Foot, but we've got a rap. And we're good at what we do. I'd say that about the crew, yeah. And all of them sort of like nod their heads like, yeah. And we enjoy what we do. It's one of those things, when you find something you're passionate about, it doesn't even feel like work.
That's important.
I agree.
All right. Well, I will commiserate with my fellow members, and we will have an answer for you at some point.
I don't want to be a stickler, but I'd love to hear the news, so why don't we call it a day?
A day.
If
You
I don't
got
hear
it.
from you in a day, I'm presuming you're doing your own thing, which means you're fair game, which means you're not allies, which means, something goes wrong in your neighborhood. I mean, I don't want to say we would do it, but shit happens, right?
Oh, I hear you. It's a very tough neighborhood.
That is true. Are you the boss of this here number?
I'm not the boss. I'm more the leadership.
I mean, it's the same thing, right? I like that. Just one woman to another. I mean, my brother, he has his time and his place. And obviously you'll hear of him. You start asking around about the billhooks. You'll hear about Torval. But at least for the time being, unless Corin wants to say something otherwise. Corin, anything? No. Okay. I'm the leader of the billhooks.
I'm glad to see that.
Blinder
uh,
Has something.
Yeah, Blinder will look over at Clifton and look at her. It's like, and just, I hear you have a large and wonderful family. I think I've met.
Oh, you're kind of like
Like-
catching him on the side, sort of a thing?
Or no, like I'll just like. No, he'll look at Clifton, look back at her. So he's actually talking to her. It's like, I
I
think
see.
I've-
Okay.
I heard you have a large and wonderful family. I think I've met one of your relations. Quite nice.
Mine,
Maybe.
the woman says.
Mr. Withers.
I'm not a Withers. That's Clifton.
Oh, I see.
We may seem like we're family.
I-
And we do care for one another. But the truth is we're bonded more by bloodshed than actual blood.
The things that bind.
That's true.
Us.
That's true. But anyways, you guys are probably going to be busy. It's probably going to be gangs wanting to talk to you all day long. Enjoy the fame while it lasts. I'll tell you, it doesn't last very long. You'll be the talk of the town, and then people will forget you tomorrow. It happens.
Probably for the best.
Maybe. Dunzo's a tough place. It's good to have friends.
That's fair.
I look forward to hearing back from you. Don't shit on my lawn. And until I hear back from you, we'll be good.
Okay.
Seem good?
Sounds good. Yep.
I won't piss in your pond. You don't shit on my lawn.
Fair.
At least for now.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
enjoy yourselves. Let's, do you drink?
I do.
Sure. She does a motion and a couple of glasses are brought over, set down in front of you. She picks up the glass, tips it to yours, sort of in a cheers fashion, swigs it back. Enjoy your day.
You as well.
With that, she stands up, grabs her chair, dragging it slowly behind her, sets it back down next to the gang, and then sits down and sort of watches you all leave.
All right. I will get up and turn and walk towards the door,
Follow
towards
him.
the exit.
As you guys
actually.
go walking away, you see that young man that I described immediately stands up, walks over and starts speaking to the woman who had mentioned her name was Erin. They have a bit of a back and forth while you guys are leaving. You can't hear what they're saying, but you see that there's sort of a back and forth. The rest of the gang is sort of giving them space. And then he's like, fuck you. That's what you hear, and it's loud. And then he walks off in a different direction off of the pontoon. Like, you guys go one way and he goes the other.
Now that was the Corin guy that did that.
Yeah, the younger man that she had mentioned. Yeah.
I'm gonna look over at Blinder,
Okay.
and I'm gonna tap him on the shoulder and make notice of it. Hey,
Yes. Yeah. I it's interesting.
think we should follow the guy?
I look at Reaper.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Let's do that. Let's.
Be careful. There's lots of eyes and ears around here.
Of course.
We're just keeping an eye. We're not poking around nothing.
So I'll presume that as the group goes walking away back the way that they had come, that Blinder and Carver will sort of split off the group once you hit the crowd, heading in the general direction that you had seen the young man going.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect.
One more
Fine.
note. What did she say her name was?
Erin.
Erin.
Aaron.
Yes.
Okay. Corin, Aaron, Clifton Withers. Gotcha.
Yes. There's another name that she mentioned, but some of you may remember it, some may not.
Torval.
Yes.
Torville.
Okay. So you separate. I'm going to presume Blinder and Carver head off following Corin. What is Reaper and Martin doing, though, in the time?
Martin actually wanted to go up to Reaper and be like, hey, that idea you have of talking to the crows might not be such a bad idea.
Why is that?
Because if the Billhooks don't own the area that we're at, having bigger allies might be better for us than having a small time of murderous thug, a small time group of murderous thugs as our friends.
That's
We can be friendly with them.
That's a good idea. If they'll even see us. I heard that is Mercy still with us?
Yes, Mercy followed Reaper and Martin. Yeah.
Okay, I'll look over at Mercy. Didn't someone mention that the crows are hard to speak to directly? You have to find channels to speak to them?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Generally, someone has to vet you, or, like a bigger gang that has good rapport with the crows will introduce you, kind of a thing. Because like I said, there's a lot of small time. You think of it like fanboys, right?
So
You get these small
maybe
gangs
somebody
coming
like the Red Sashes?
I mean, the Sashes can do it. They're sort of split on the fence about you guys. I mean, the job you guys did. She sort of hushes herself. I mean, the job you guys did for him did earn you some points, though. But I mean, it's not one of those things that we're just gonna be able to go and say, "Oh, the Red Sashes." We'd have to actually talk to the gang, which could take a couple days or something. But I mean, I could introduce you. I know a couple crows, but they're pretty low in the totem pole of the overall gang. But I mean, I could at least get your foot in the door, kind of a thing.
Okay, that'll work.
Okay.
I would rather wait until Carver and Blinder come back because
Sure.
I would like us to be one whole unit.
Sure. I mean, Tingletown is sort of the place where these sorts of things take place usually, but you're not going to see like the big wigs or the crows hanging out here just because it'd be too much, right? But you'll see a couple of the smaller, like lower in the totem pole sort of people. So, I mean, I'll go ask around and see if any of them are here, see if I can spot them or anything, and then I'll meet back up with you guys. Do you want to get a drink or something, like while you guys wait? I mean, there's a couple of like
Sure,
little,
yeah.
like I guess pubs, but they're not really pubs because they're not really like buildings. I mean, they have a couple of like little pubs and things inside of barges that they've connected and stuff like that. And they're sort of like places of business. They're definitely not as nice as like an actual tavern, but you know, they're pretty okay.
All right. Well, I guess Martin, you and I are gonna go drinking.
Ain't said nothing to me.
Yeah, I think Mercy says Seaview is pretty good. It's the name of a ship. You'll see it. It's one of the old barges. It says Seaview right along the side. It's a sort of like little tavern place. The owner is pretty nice. Older guy. And usually people will pop in, grab some drinks. It has that sort of like street vendor vibe to it, but there is a place you can chill out inside the boat if you want to like get out of the weather for rain or whatever, right? Yeah, it should be like that way, Mercy says, and she like points you sort of in a direction of winding pathways and things of that variety.
Okay. I don't know if Carver and Blinder know where to find us, but I guess.
Well, I'm gonna be
come
staying
looking for us.
here in this area, so if I see
okay.
if I see them, I'll mention that you guys headed to Seaview. If that
Okay.
works okay for you.
All right, that does work. Thank
Sure.
you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you, Mercy.
Yeah.
And stay safe while you're here, huh?
Neutral ground. I should be okay, she says with that sort of like smile, you know. Gives you a quick little like punch on the shoulder, you know, jokingly, and then walks off.
To the drinking.
So I'm going to presume Reaper and Martin head to the Seaview Tavern and
Yes.
are getting their drink on, and we'll return to that scene here in a bit. However, first I'm going to move to Blinder and Carver. Several minutes have passed already, we'll say, for the sake of timey-wiminess. And Blinder and Carver have been following this young gentleman for some time. They separated from the group, sort of taking an upper area sort of approach. I mean, Carver is good at shadowing people. He's done it before. He's proven he's quite good at it. So with Carver sort of leading the way, Blinder falls in, and they're able to shadow this individual for some time. I guess to check in with you, was there a plan to confront him, or was the goal to just watch him and see where he goes and what he does?
The goal's kind of to watch him and see where he goes, what he does, and
Sure.
potentially, if it looks like he's not too happy with what was said on the boat, I might bump in and ask him what that was.
Okay. I'll say he seems like an individual that's good at hiding his emotions. He seems like he can put on a very straight face and just sort of walk. For his age, and it's something that you see in the way that like people, as he's walking, sort of get out of his way. And most people, right, just layman sort of people, are just sort of stepping out of his way as they realize who he is. It's strange to you that a man of such youth would have such sway in a matter of speaking, but you realize that it's potentially who he is or who he's connected to mixed with this long stare that he seems to have. He has this intense stare, and you had seen it. It had fallen upon you during the meet, as it would be. And he has these very cold eyes, almost kind of shark-like, you know. And he just moves his way through the crowd. He's not really talking to anyone or engaging with anyone. People are stepping out of his way, and he eventually finds himself as sort of a food place, a vendor of some variety. He grabs a bite to eat. He sits down. He walks over to a chair, and there are a few people sitting nearby, and as soon as he sits down, they sort of look at him, and then they get up and they just walk away. Like, not trying to make a big deal of it. Like, they're like, oh, well, I'm done, you know, that sort of thing. Like, they're trying to be like, oh, I just finished, you know. And then he just continues sitting there. For as well as he hides his emotions, you can see that he's obviously contemplating something. Anger may be a part of that, but you just don't know him well enough to know how he might cope with his anger. So it's hard to tell, really, where he's at, right? After he gets his food, he sits there for a bit, and then he continues walking. Eventually, he stops into another sort of tavern like I described before. This one's actually set in more of an open format. There are people sort of sitting around in chairs in the open air. There's these sort of like canopies set overhead to stop the rain that's sort of lightly drizzling, as it always is here in Duskwall. And he walks inside. buys a pitcher, sits down at a table by himself, and starts pouring himself glasses to drink, and then he just sits there. And I don't know how long you follow him for at that point, but it seems like he just plans to sit there. You're not sure how much longer he plans to, but time...
What do you think we should...
I don't know.
He seemed rather upset.
Can I do something foolish?
Well, I'm not gonna say.
I'm beginning to like you more and more, Mr. Carver. Drink, please. And I'm gonna grab a...
Oh, so you're
drink.
like going into the tavern and grabbing a drink? Okay.
Yeah, walk
So
right
yeah,
in.
you head actually into the space, and there's not really like a wall or anything. It's more kind of like, imagine like things have been set up to sort of set a boundary line, but nothing is actually like physically stopping anyone. Like anyone could just walk in or step over or whatever, but more or less it seems like people are polite enough to not just do that. You step inside, you order a drink, you're past a what seems like a very simple mushroom grog kind of a variety. Something very cheap, easy, but gets the job done.
And then I'll angle my way toward... Now, obviously, he's probably used to in crowds sitting in a defensive way, or to keep his eye on the thing. But I'm just gonna basically...
Actually, it doesn't seem like he even cares.
Okay. So
He's actually put his back to the door. He's looking out across the water away from the tavern. He's just sort of staring out into the inky blackness of the canalway that feeds off past White Crowned Island into the ocean itself.
I'll grab the beer.
Mm-hmm.
I'll, like eye gesture with Carver to kind of, keep a safe distance, but this might get me hurt. So, and then, please steer nearby. And then I'll just kind of walk up and sit down, and I'll just start talking.
Okay.
Right in front of him.
So this is what happens as you step forward. So you just walk up, you sit down. As you walk up and that motion is happening sort of out of the corner of his eye, you see his hand drop down into his jacket, and you hear a click. And then as you sit down and start talking, he's just staring at you. His hand moves to underneath the table. And then when he realizes you're not carrying any weapons or doing anything, he then looks around to see anybody else.
You know what I hate about these places? That the mushroom grog makes it to where my fear can't be overcome by good taste. It's not like I can sit here and drink this thing while sitting and talking to a person. I have difficulties really sitting and talking with people. I'm not very social usually, so I just end up running on at the mouth. I want to say, whatever it is you're doing here, this seems like a fine establishment. I would hope that you would choose a good establishment. I really hope that that we can come to some sort of understanding later on. That would be quite nice. Do you come here often?
Anytime I'm in Tingletown, yeah. In that, you hear the click sound underneath the table, and then you see him motion, and he raises his hands up on top of the table. He grabs the side of his chair and slides it around the table to where he now has his back is more centered to the ocean, and now he can more clearly see the bar. I mean, someone could still potentially sneak around him through the narrow space, but
Yeah.
it would be much harder for someone to do so without him noticing.
I couldn't. Do you find it helpful to think? I mean, I have yet to find a good, adequate place. And this is my first time to Tingletown, obviously. Can I ask a question? A serious question.
Sure.
I know I can't. I could tend to be fairly perceptive person. I think that you share this ability. I noticed the way you observed us back at the, during the conversation. I happened to notice that something was bothering you. I wouldn't pry if it's, of course, we only just know each other, that sort of thing sinks a certain amount of trust. But it you have to understand that we've come here with a pretty open understanding of what to expect. I hope that we didn't do anything to upset you.
Oh. Wasn't you or your people. Aaron doesn't run the hooks. My dad does.
Ah, I see.
When she spouts shit off like that, it makes us all look bad.
Yes, it's very a difficult situation.
I mean, it's publicly known. People know that my dad's in Ironhook, but he's still the leader of the Hooks. So I'm not telling you anything private or personal, really.
Oh, absolutely. I thank you, actually, because what is very common knowledge to Rumor is not so common to me. I'm a little bit of out of water, as it were. But
yeah, you seem like a weird guy.
Thank you. I'd rather be strange than boring. And
It's fine.
Well,
as long as you keep your hands on the table.
Oh, of course. Oh, that makes perfect sense. I would.
You've noticed that he's done the same thing. He has his hands sort of sitting like with his fingers crossed over a fist, but they are sitting on top of the table within sight.
He'll keep his hands on the top of the table, like now, like almost like rigidly.
Yeah.
Very looking intentionally very uncomfortable. Well, I could see how that could be difficult. For internal matters aside, I would say that the manner in which I was quite unexpected. What? Yes.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I don't want to be rude either. Does your friend want to come sit down too? I mean, I see him back over there, but
Mr.
You look over, by the way, and you'll see Carver is just like giggling his ass off at the bar.
Mr. Carver's minding me. He's a little bit more adept in these places than I am, and this is merely a personal curiosity.
I mean, he's welcome to join us. I mean, this isn't business.
Mr. I'll gesture over at Mr. Carver, very openly, like.
All right. Well, Carver will, as he's walking over, he will take his coat off very slowly, and then he will fold it up over his arm, palms flat out, and then he will place the coat on top of the table with his hands, doing steeple on top of the table.
So his hands are clearly in view. He's not holding any weapons. He doesn't have sleeves, so he doesn't have hidden palmed blades or anything. Okay.
That was exactly the reason.
Perfect. Where's your other friends at?
Oh, they are my Reaper and our other friend Mr. Martin is off procuring supplies. We have a new venture, and
I get it.
there's
Business. You don't have to go into detail. I get it.
Yes. I would have to say I was quite surprised, honestly. Your reputation does precede you. Quite a firm reputation.
Well, that's the reputation my dad created. You know, he didn't have much, but he did what he could with what he had, and it might have been through a way, and in a place where people may not have agreed with it. But you know, when you have nothing, you got to get something, right? And the only way he knew how to was bloodshed. So he did what he had to do. Took care of me, my family, my mom, and he put food on the table. People may not like how he did it, but he did it nonetheless.
Quite right. I am quite familiar with what necessity does, and the means in which you must do them.
Yeah, you got that. You got that look to you. I can see that. You look like a guy who's, how to put it, you know, you look like a bird who's trying to, like a chicken trying to pretend to be a duck. You know what I mean? You got things sitting on you all weird, like you're not really sure how to wear them. You know, like fake skin.
It's true. Very perceptive.
It's the hair.
I've needed a haircut.
No, like the hair is good. You have it slicked back, but I can tell that you're not used to wearing a hat the way that your hair sits, right?
Mm.
Especially not a fine hat like the one you're wearing. It's a really nice hat, by the way.
Thank you.
There's little things too, you know, your 5 o'clock shadow, the way you shave it. There's obviously not a line of a barber or something that set that line. You probably did it yourself, you know, just little things.
I admire that. It's not every day that I find somebody so. I do not profess to be as observant as you, but observant.
Maybe if you just listen to your buddy here, he seems pretty smart.
Yes. I should take the advice of others more often.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying this guy. The way he's holding himself. You look over at Carver. See, it just seems like he has his jacket set, you know, his fingers set like he's a little bit more comfortable than you. See, there's a difference in the way that you're sitting and the way that he's sitting. You're sitting that way rigidly because you're afraid. He's sitting that way because he knows that if he sits that way, I don't feel threatened by him, which means I don't need to threaten him. He doesn't need to threaten me, right? It's obvious to me that he comes from a place where people exchange more than words, right? Whether it's duels or blades or whatever, right? When you grow up having to fight for something and like kill people, or at least it's in your wheelhouse of life, you know, you start to realize that you have to expect that every person, even if they don't know, may know that, right?
See.
Well, I mean, there's a rigidness to you, though. You serve time?
No. Poverty. I was being subjected to poverty for most of my life is a way of imprisonment, I suppose, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, you have that same look my dad got when I last saw him in the joint, you know?
Yes.
I just thought, I mean, but I guess, you know, things are similar in that way. You know, you grew up with nothing. You know, that's one way.
Well, it's good to know that even though things happen in your situations, there's much ambiguity, obviously, and certainly as much as Aaron had even pointed out. I have to say I was quite pleasantly surprised, given the reputation that has been built by your father. That to find that there's sound minds, that is about business in the end.
You guys are new, right? Pretty new.
Oh, absolutely.
So
completely, utterly green.
I mean, I only learned the things I learned because my dad had to find the path, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing he told me when I was growing up was that it doesn't matter what somebody knows about you. What matters is what they think they know.
I would agree.
You know, you hear about the hooks and you presume that we're just maniacs, right? And some of us are. I'm going to be real. There have been members of the hooks that are fucking maniacs. I mean, my dad back in his heyday, probably, if I had seen him and wasn't a young boy, I probably would have thought he was a maniac. I mean, rightly so. But our reputation is like a weapon. It's not the blades. If we can handle business by just walking in and people are afraid that we've done some shit or that we would do some shit, we don't even have to draw our weapons. We just walk out. We take what's ours and we leave.
I see the soundness and I think that was we use a similar tactic. No, although not with fear, obviously we have not the experience, but
fear's not hard to earn. The
ambiguity
problem is
can
that
be
eventually
a weapon.
People forget that they're afraid of you and you have to remind them.
Ah, yes. But as a ambiguity can be just as much of a weapon, and fear. I do find it quite effective. I'm stricken by it right now. But it's interesting, the philosophies. I think we approach things differently. But
Sure.
I hope that, for what it's worth, I sincerely hope that the situation is alleviated and the reputation your father built can be maintained and represented to your satisfaction as his son.
Yeah.
It's important, fathers, to us sons to live up to what our fathers expect.
Yeah.
We are their legacy. And for a brief moment, because Carver's been kind of intently watching, to at least Carver, probably to Corn, the fear just briefly fades, and it's completely sincere. There's a sense of sadness in that statement, and a look on his face that's kind of recalling something, a memory or something. His demeanor drops for just a brief second, and he's like, well, this has been terrifying. Thank you.
Drinks are on me, man.
Oh,
He says.
thank you. Gets up and
He reaches
walks
out to shake your hand, like as you're getting up. Shakes your hand. Reaches
Pleasure.
over to Carver.
Carver will motion to shake his hand.
I didn't catch your guys' names.
They call me Blinder.
Blinder.
I'm Carver.
Nice to meet you both. I hope you know that, I've enjoyed our conversation, and you seem like good people. Just, understand that the Hook's got to do what we got to do. So.
Oh, of course, business is business.
Yeah. So if shit changes tomorrow after a day or so, just understand.
Nothing personal.
Yeah.
Business is business.
Yeah, have a good rest of your night, though. Just be careful on that pathway. There's a hole there sometimes in the dark. You don't even see it till you go, oop, right in,
Blinder will scurry out after saying goodbye once Warren, and
At that point, as you guys go walking out, Mercy's sort of just sitting there waiting for you guys, like, hey. And then with that, we will move over to Reaper and Martin. So Reaper and Martin have arrived at the Sea View. They've been there for some time, we'll even say, because some time has passed. There are a few drinks in, maybe more than a few, depending upon how you feel. Was there anything else you guys were doing on your way there? Or were you just heading straight there, gonna get your drink on, do that sort of thing?
Probably get our drink on and just wait for Carver and Blinder to get back.
Okay.
Or Mercy, whichever ones get back first.
Sure, yeah. So you guys are several drinks in, we'll say. You might be pacing yourselves. I don't know. It's completely up to you to determine that for your own character. Would you like to have a moment to engage between Reaper and Martin while it's sort of just the two of you basically having a drink?
Well, I do got a question for you, Reaper.
What's that?
How did you come by to know Marlene?
When I started at the pits, I found my way into the pits and I decided to work with her. And she taught me what she knew. She pretty much raised my boxer side, my fighter side. So she's kind of a second mother to me.
Well, she did an excellent job. I see
Thank
the way you swing them fists, and should be proud of yourself.
Thanks.
One of these days, I might get her forgiveness.
What did you do to her?
I didn't do anything to her, but let's just say that she took me out for a job, my first job, and I nearly beat someone to death. I went a little bit too far, and that caused a rift between her and I that I don't think any amount of time will fully heal. But you gotta understand that sometimes you have to go that distance. And
Sometimes you do.
and whatever anyone else says about it, he deserved it. He was a slime ball. He was treating his people like shit. He deserved it. But ever since then, might as well keep using the rep that I've built for myself. Makes it so I don't have to fight that many people.
That's true.
Man, I don't know what they do to their mushrooms here, but they do some good shit to them. Glug.
Chug, chug, chomp, chomp.
Exactly. It's like bad
Say
sangria when you have to.
they bring by sort of beer battered mushrooms for you, or ale battered mushrooms, mushroom grog battered mushrooms. You know, there's that going on. Lots of mushrooms in Duskwall, especially in the poor districts. So the barkeep brings those by for you.
Thanks. Don't mind if I do.
Same. Crunch.
They're compliments of that man over there.
I'll look over. Do I recognize
Same.
the man?
No, you don't. Just
I think
seems
he
like,
wants a date with you, Martin.
Really? All right.
Seems like
I'm gonna go-
oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, unless he is walking toward us at that moment, I'm gonna start walking over toward him.
Sure. He's just sitting at a table inside the actual sea view area, off in the corner, near one of the larger sort of porthole see-through areas. And he's sort of, you can see the door, but he's also looking out into the water.
Is he against a wall?
Yeah, he's got a wall to one side.
Okay. Well, I'll go up with my, I guess, beer, and just kind of lean against the wall. Not taking one of the chairs, but just lean against the wall on the opposite side of the table from him. Evening. Well, afternoon, I suppose. Evening. It's hard to tell.
You see a man who's probably in his mid-ish 20s. 5 o'clock shadow. Not dressed super nice, but definitely not like a street person or a dock work or something like that. Seems somewhat well-to-do. Very similar dress to probably how you'd say Blinder is dressed, but a little bit less monochromatic in grays and more of in blacks and whites. His rain jacket's sitting on the chair behind him. His hat is also sort of hanging nearby. His hair's slicked back, presumably from the rain. And he's a scar across his face.
Thank you for the appetizers.
No
I'll get up
problem.
and follow Martin.
No problem at all, friend.
Can I ask what's the occasion?
I thought I recognized you from somewhere.
Oh yeah, from where?
Aren't you guys fighters?
At one point, yeah.
Yeah. The guy won a couple rounds betting on the two of you.
Glad to be of service.
Yeah, no problem. figured you were enjoying yourself. I'd have some food brought over. Too much
Thanks,
ale
man.
on an empty stomach, not good.
Yeah.
And who may you be?
Me?
Yeah, you.
You can call me Wes.
Wes.
Yeah.
Well, Wes, I'm Martin.
Yeah, I know who you are.
Is there a last name to go with the Wes or just Wes?
Nah, I'm just a first name kind of guy.
Fair enough.
I didn't want to interrupt your good times. I appreciate you coming over and saying thank you, though.
Oh yeah, not a problem. I like to thank people for the gifts they give me.
Yeah, no problem. Enjoy the food.
Thanks.
I gotta take off myself, he says, and he stands up and grabs his jacket and his hat and throws his jacket over his shoulders and starts to get his arms into it and puts his hat on top.
All right.
But hey, you have a good one. Enjoy yourselves. He
You
says.
too.
Thanks. You too.
Tips his hat to both of you and walks out.
You see that? We're famous by our own right.
I know, right? Wow. Maybe we got in the right line of work.
It's true. Okay, so I'll go back and sit down back at my
Sure.
bar spot.
Yeah,
A
same
short
here.
time later, Blinder, Carver, and Mercy come walking in to see you. Blinder seems a little tipsy, a little buzzed, like he had a few. Maybe nervously didn't realize how much he was drinking or something.
Yeah, he probably drank a little bit too much. Just
Sure.
Sees them walking in the bar. Martin will turn and kind of wave to him with like I don't know, like an onion ring hanging out of his mouth.
Sure. Well, it'd be more of a mushroom ring, we'll say.
Oh, mushroom ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, or a piece of fried mushroom.
Yeah. It's all mushrooms here. Like really
Yeah.
fancy produce is way too expensive, and they probably don't have it here.
Probably.
Anyways, yeah. So they come walking in. Mercy orders another round, and she like looks at Reaper and Martin and be like, "How many are you in?"
I can't count that high.
I don't know. I'd say a light, medium buzz.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Guess I gotta catch up.
I don't know. Give me a minute. I'm gonna roll. High. I am very buzzed.
Do you want me to
Low,
do
I
a
am
fortune
low
roll? I can do
buzzed.
a
Yes.
fortune roll for you. Sure. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, you are one beer away from being ready to go. Let's just say you're at that point where you've gone through that light buzz into the heavy buzz, and now you're getting to that point where you're like, I'm about to be real drunk. So, yeah.
I didn't realize the others would be drinking. This is apparently. Is this the wisest idea? And he'll grab beer and start drinking it.
This is what you do in Tangletown, Mercy says.
Oh, I see. Well, and when in Dusk Bowl.
Yeah, I mean basically, yeah.
Offers a clink up to Blinder.
Oh, nervously clinking back. He's like,
Yeah.
So we had a very interesting conversation with Mr. Corin. I think maybe we should discuss this when we're sober.
I am perfectly capable still, thank you very much.
I'm not.
So
Keep
no.
drinking.
I think that coming to reasonable agreement would not be in our disinterest, especially given the future. The cooks may. The leader is actually not present And the person who is representing the gang, well, let's just say that there's some disputes about the way the gang is being represented. But, yes, I think that there are violent and ruthless minds that may persist in the gang. But there is a rationale, and as long as we understand that, and they're willing, and we, at least an easy agreement. They undoubtedly have a lot of enemies, but those enemies need not be necessarily our enemies, as long as we have an agreement of mutual business relationships. What do you think?
Well, I think personally that maybe we should take Reaper's advice and see if we can't worm our way in with the crows, even though it's going to take a while. But taking a while, I mean, I'd say why? I mean, are the billhooks and the crows on good relations with one another? Do we know that?
We don't know.
They're not at war.
Yeah, they're not fighting each other openly, says Mercy. But you know, the inner politics of gangs is...
Here's the thing. If we spend too much time trying to warm up to the crows, we'll lose our opportunity to at least have somewhat of a ceasefire between us and the Hooks. The Hooks have a reputation to uphold. And if they don't uphold it, they'll look weak. That's where we come in. Punching us out, that's just them saving face.
I still don't like shacking up with a bunch of murderous bastards.
Sometimes we gotta eat the shit sandwich.
Especially to get moving.
We don't want to be...
That was very beautifully put, Reaper, says Mercy.
We don't want to be hooks or anything. We just... They use fear as a weapon. It is an effective weapon. I agree with that, even though it may not be our weapon. There's no reason that we can't use the weapon of our enemy's weapon to our advantage.
To weapons, Mercy says.
Weapons.
Two weapons!
The barkeep's like, you guys got... Oh.
Send me another.
And another drink eventually arrives in front of Blinder.
It's been quite some time since I've drinking this much. I have to increase my tolerance if I'm going to continue a persisting relationship with each other.
Yeah, you're going to need to learn how to drink better. You want to hang out with me.
It kills the pain in my stomach, so my stomach's been quite uncomfortable.
You're so that you know, Blinder, you're still buzzing pretty hard, but you're getting close to hitting that break point where you're about to go from very buzzed and having a good time to most certainly drunk. And yeah.
It's not his vice or his indulgence, so he won't.
Sure.
He'll definitely stop at some point.
Yes. I think of vice, just to sort of broach that topic for a moment here, is even if this isn't your vice of choice, I think of vices like addictions, right? It's something you have to do. But, occasionally enjoying a drink or getting drunk here and there, randomly or something like that, that's a more common occurrence, right? That's sort of part of the culture. And so it's totally understandable if characters get drunk and when they do and that sort of thing. So I am letting you know that your vice, just because you're getting drunk, it doesn't mean that you're like violating your vice or anything like that. Yeah.
No, we're good. I was just saying like he doesn't feel compelled to do to drink heavily.
Sure.
He's just more or less trying to keep up with the others, and then once he realizes his own stamina, because he doesn't know
slow
what
down a little bit.
Yeah, he'll slow down a little, just a little bit. He'd be like, okay, and we are in a, he doesn't quite trust the place, so he'll stop at some point.
Yeah. Okay. I apologize for interrupting the roleplay. Please continue.
No worries.
I was just gonna say you're gonna need some help with your stomach problems if you keep putting feathers in your mouth.
He was putting feathers in his mouth?
Well, remember the thing with the time he had some feathers that came up?
Why are you eating non-food objects?
I was hungry. It's a hobo thing.
No, it's a weirdo thing.
Well, and he'll shoot a like a look that normally would probably be guarded, but in this case it's pretty blatant. He's just like, at Carver.
I'll look at Carver. I'll look
Carver
at him.
looks at everybody and goes, "What?"
Nothing. We were having a conversation about eating habits, peculiarities. They're delicacies that you would never realize. Oh,
Is that why your stomach hurts?
it's chronic, really.
Fried feather and go. Things
What's
that fried feather, escargot, things that you would find as oddities or curios in night market.
Maybe you should stay away from that stuff.
I ate a rat.
If you throw up on me, I'm gonna throw up on you.
So,
But you ate a rat.
Wait, does Martin know that?
He just said it.
Oh.
You ate a rat?
Why would you eat a rat?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I mean, did you lose a piece of cheese in your stomach?
No.
Did you not have money for food?
There are reasons.
He was about as out of shape as the time that we found him outside of the boat, so.
It's the things I do.
Oh.
Why is it weird that he ate a rat? Says Mercy. We eat rats all the time. Like literally, this food has rat in it.
Right.
It's very
But
true.
I'm assuming he meant a raw rat.
Oh, you ate a raw rat?
Yeah. He was kind of squirming when
It was alive?
Oh.
Oh,
Oh.
shit.
Oh.
I'm gonna go use the bathroom. Okay.
It's probably eating your stomach right now as we speak.
No. It's well, yeah.
Well, did you rip off its head first before you ate it?
No. No.
Ew.
Probably shouldn't be discussing this while I'm intoxicated.
Probably not.
Martin looks on the verge of vomiting, talking about this, but he just sits there and just slowly sips his beer.
Carver looks over at Martin and he goes, "Hey, if you're gonna do it, point that way."
You see Mercy walks off through the tavern to these places that look sort of like porta potties, but you can tell that the back of them is mostly like cut off, and you've seen people just peeing out of them into the water. And you can see from the direction you're looking, you just see Mercy walk through the door shuts, and there's a box. You can't really see Mercy, but then you just see a like go out the back of the box into the water. A few minutes later, Mercy, a little bit later, Mercy comes out, like wiping, sort of like, heaving tears away, and comes walking back towards the group. Oof.
I feel the same way.
Yeah,
Relieved.
I feel better, yeah.
Yes.
A live rat.
I don't know why.
Like, were you sitting there one day and just randomly you decided that it was cool to eat rats?
No.
Like, or did somebody tell you to, or?
Well, in a manner of speaking.
Okay, that makes more sense. I mean, I would eat something if somebody else told me to eat it without question, obviously.
It's sort of like a dare thing, I guess. I don't completely understand it myself. I just figured in the vein of, well, since we are having a pretty communicative way and things, and you have not sold me out, as it were, I figured that I'd be honest.
You don't get to complain about your stomach pains.
Oh, but they really hurt.
Then
You should use the bathroom.
Yeah, then stop putting odd things in your stomach.
I will try.
You need a doctor.
Saw a doctor.
What did the doctor say?
Gave me stomach medicine.
Did you tell him that you ate a rat?
No. That's not
'Cause-
something I need to, and it really shouldn't be anything. Oh, no, really don't tell. Don't say anything. Don't tell.
It was a joke.
He gets that like panic look when when you're really drunk, and all of a sudden like something's freaking you out, right? Don't say anything. Don't.
No, it was a joke. I won't say anything.
Now that I'm
Yes.
not as drunk, this place is starting to get lame. You guys want to go walk around? Says Mercy.
Sure.
Sure, we
There's
can do that.
there's a photo booth place. You guys want to go get our photo taken?
Yeah, let's do that. We can stand completely still for 1 hour.
It doesn't take that long. It's
Okay,
like
30 minutes.
it's like 10 minutes.
Okay.
It's really not that long.
Yeah, this is like the best technology. They've got one, and it's in the sort of the center, and then and at that point, Mercy starts speaking Aruvian. Like, you can tell she's getting so drunk, she stops speaking Akarosian. So only Reaper understands what she's saying. And she's basically talking about how there's this path up this way, and you gotta go follow the thing. And then she like gets lost in her description. The rest of you have no idea what she's saying other than Reaper. And then she eventually says that there's like a photo booth where someone there's a backdrop and some chairs, and you can pay the person silver. And then she stops at the end, and she's like, and then she speaks in Akaros again, sort of, and she's like, "Let's go."
Let's go. I agree. And I'll
All
get
right,
up and follow her.
Let's go on an adventure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of take the tail end of the group here.
Okay.
Kind of make sure that they're not going.
How
off
much
in
has
separate
Carver?
directions.
How much has Carver been drinking?
Not a lot.
Okay, so he's been very controlled. He's been cheersing with people, but he hasn't been doing the thing like, oh, finish your drink, whatever you cheers. He's been doing one of those like, yeah, and he'll cheer, and then maybe
Yeah,
like,
he is
take
not
a-
a woo girl.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, the rest of the crew has definitely sort of been woo girls tonight. It's been great.
Yeah.
So you make your way through Tangletown. Mercy gets a bit lost here and there, but you remember the rough description she gave you, Reaper. You're definitely not as drunk as you were. You're starting to get back to that buzz phase. You're a little more perceptive. And you eventually find your way there through twisting paths between buildings, climbing up a stairway here, walking across like a rope bridge there of, planks and whatnot. And you eventually find yourself in this sort of open area, and you see that there are people sort of standing in front of what looks like a large backdrop of some sort of cloth of some variety. There are a few chairs set there. There are a few things in the background, like bookcases and things, to sort of make the picture seem nicer or whatever, but they're not like super in frame. They're sort of set off to the side. And they're just sitting there like perfectly still, and then there's a flash of a bulb, and this somewhat older looking man comes out from underneath this cover at the back of the camera, and he's like, okay, now just stand there for 10 more minutes. And then it goes off, and he had set a little timer, and the timer goes, and eventually as time passes for about 10 or so minutes, where you guys are drunkenly standing there like waiting your turn, and Mercy's like, we're next. She ends up paying silver, and then eventually, the people leave. You pay the photographer silver. You all, what sort of pose do you guys decide to strike in this photo?
Definitely Charlie's Angels.
Okay, the photographer mentions that please choose a pose that you're going to be able to stay in for 10 or so minutes perfectly still, because if you don't, it will ruin the photo.
My character will stand completely still, like almost like a mannequin, because I don't think she's ever had a photo taken before, so she doesn't know how to stand.
Okay.
So she's just standing.
Okay. When you guys walk past the camera, it looks like a very traditional old camera, like we would imagine in real life, but there are these weird sort of tubes that run off of it, and there's this weird pack set onto it. There's this like sort of energy, this radiance radiating out of these tubes that is giving off the soft glow. When he fired the camera, there was that snap of the bulb like everyone is used to hearing from like old movies and things like that, but there was also this like sound of pressure and like some sort of buzzing, and then like the sound of like something moving through the tube, and you saw the liquid shooting through this strange white ectoplasmic sort of liquid. Yeah. So you all strike your poses, whatever those poses might be. I just want to take a note. So Martin is wanting to stand back to back with someone. Who is the person he's standing back to back with, like Charlie's Angels or whatever?
Blinder will do it.
Oh, Blinder. Okay, so Blinder
yeah.
and Martin are standing back to back. Blinder and Martin back to back. Reaper is standing perfectly still. Is Reaper like to the side of them or in front of them? Like, are they standing
Probably
back to back
off to
because
the
they're tall?
side of them.
I was gonna say they're tall
standing
enough
back to
that
back.
Reaper could stand in front of them and they would all still be seen, because Reaper's
Okay, then,
shorter
yeah.
than both Martin and Blinder. Where is Carver gonna stand? You're offered a chair, by the way, right in front, so that Reaper could stand with the chair over you, or like, yeah. Would that be something Carver would do, or would Carver rather stand as well, or something, or take a knee?
It's up to them. Like, Carver will just kind of take whatever position he's told to.
Mm-hmm.
And like, this is a whimsical thing, so he's just going along with the drunks.
Okay. And so far, Blinder and Martin are standing back to back like Charlie's Angels. Reaper and an NPC that is a dear friend of theirs named Mercy is standing in front of them. They're both standing perfectly still. And then Carver is sitting in front doing his normal Carver, like suave sort of look. Yeah, exactly. Just like Blinder there. And so then you all take your poses. The bulb flashes, the liquid moves, and then the man steps out from underneath the blanket, and he's like, and now just stay there for 10 minutes. And he sets a timer. And then I'm not going to make you actually wait 10 minutes for this whole thing, but eventually you all try to stand as still as you can, holding the same poses. Blinder apparently has that face on. Okay. Okay. I am making a note of this. I am making a note of this because if anyone ever decides they want to do some character art, I think this specific picture would be amazing. If someone just drew like how I'm presuming that's what Blinder's face looks like the whole time. Just that, like just a pure representation of who Blinder is, like visually. Yes. Perfect.
All right, guys, this is what I'm going to be working on my private stream for the next month. So
I love it. I love it. Okay. Awesome. So you guys get a photo done. you hit a couple of other places, we'll say, for food. You get sort of like rat street tacos in a sense, you know, but it's more like rat pieces between some sort of like more like a crispy dough of some variety, more like pigs in a blanket, I guess you could say, because they don't have tacos. So it'd be more like pigs in a blanket, but there is a sort of sauce over it. It's actually quite good. You guys enjoy yourselves. For those of you that have been drinking too much, it might come up later and it might not taste so good, but for the time being, you're all still having a great deal of fun. Eventually, though, do you guys decide to find your way back to Seaview, or where are you wanting to head?
I don't think that going back to Pond Street wise. No, I think we should probably find a place to sleep it off. Yes, and trust me, I know many good ways to sleep in alleys. That hole over there,
We are not sleeping in an alley.
perfectly fine.
Why would we sleep in an alley?
So he has
Just go
easier
back
access.
to the boat.
So he has easier access to the rats.
I wouldn't want to
Oh.
go back to the boat from here, just in case.
Plus,
We could stay in a hotel or something, though. An inn.
Yes,
Yeah, let's stay at an inn.
That'd be nice.
I'll go to fancy. I see.
I will say, just as a sort of thing, that there are a few other people that recognize both Reaper and Martin. Most of the people that recognize Reaper tend to recognize Reaper from her time in the fighting pits. And they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, you're Reaper!" You know, they'll have that sort of like, "Can I get an autograph?" And you'll sign like a piece of parchment or something for them, and they'll ask you when your next fight is, and you might make small talk, I presume, with them or something of that variety. Or do you just say, "No, I don't really fight anymore"? Like what?
I'm on a hiatus right now, but I will go back to fighting at some point.
Okay, so you're giving them the whole like, I'm in training, I'll be coming back, but right now I'm sort of focusing on the next level,
Bigger
or
and
something.
better things.
Yeah, sure, okay,
Yeah.
cool. There's a couple people that also recognize Martin, but a lot less of them recognize him from his fighting days because it was much longer ago. But eventually, yeah, there are some people that do recognize Martin. And similar sorts of things. They're just like, "Hey, aren't you that fighter like from years back?" That sort of thing. Most of them are like older people that would have been, hitting the pits at that time.
All right. Yeah, no, that was me, and yeah, I can't say I've retired from fighting, but I can say that I've moved on to bigger arenas.
Sure, yeah.
So just keep your ear out. You might hear my name coming up.
Yeah, great. Eventually someone does ask you for your autograph, Martin.
Oh, which I most definitely give him, Martin MacCalister.
And so what is the general vibe of the group? Are you guys staying very close together and just sort of moving around as a pack? Are you like, you guys are close by, but you're like looking at different shops that are still open with like lamp lights and things like that. You can all see each other, but you're generally within the same vicinity, but not necessarily right next to each other. What is the sort of way you're traveling about the Tangletown, as it would be?
Regardless of how Blinder is staying as close to the larger or the more capable fighters, Reaper and Martin.
Okay.
Right? We like wedged in between them.
Sure. Yeah, you guys don't really have any problems or anything for the most of the night. Eventually, you're able to, in a sense, not to say be relaxed, but it definitely doesn't seem like anyone's starting anything with you for the several hours that you have been here in Tangletown. Are you guys generally following the same idea, like you're pretty close to each other, that sort of thing? Okay, just in case.
Yeah, Carver's kind of like tagging in the back a little bit and kind of keeping his eye out.
Okay. With
kind of
that,
trying to watch everybody's back.
Perfect. With that, I would like Carver to actually give me a perception-based challenge.
We're totally gonna get robbed.
That is one possibility.
Probably.
Every time the PCs get drunk in a game, Gamemaster robs people.
Can I use Hunt?
Sure. We'll say.
All right. That's a 5 and a 6.
Okay. A 6, that is a full success. You do notice as the night has gone on and you've been relatively clear-headed, unlike some other members of the crew. Several hours pass and there's no problem, but for about the last hour, there are people that have passed by, recognized members of the crew, said hello, shopkeepers have said their things. But as I was saying, for about the last hour, you are relatively sure that you are being followed by 3 individuals. They're not in close proximity to each other. They seem to be spread out, but they seem to be all aware of you. And they seem to not, either they are aware of each other and they are purposefully moving as a group, or they are unaware of each other and they have not noticed each other yet. Whatever the case may be, though, you haven't quite been able to gauge who they are, or any sort of information other than, they seem like somewhat regular people. Although they
don't look familiar.
They do not look familiar, no. The 2 that you see, yes, they do not look familiar. Actually, all 3 of them wouldn't look familiar to you. They seem to be wearing not extremely nice clothes, but sort of on the level of Blinder, where it's like, it looks like it's nice enough to work sort of a government job or a business of some variety, but they're definitely not dressed like street people or factory workers or anything of that variety. They seem relatively clean, but they seem precise in the way that they're moving.
Do they appear to have weapons?
It's hard to tell from where you are. You don't specifically see them holding weapons openly. That could be because you're in Tangletown and that would draw attention, or it could be simply because they don't have them. It's hard to tell. And it is night, so it is rather dark. The only light you're really seeing is the oil light of salespeople and shops and things of that variety. There is no electric lights in Tangletown. It's all oil lights and candle lights and things like that. And when you do catch glimpses of them, they're moving from place to place, a shadow here and then in full light down the one pathway off to, a few shops down kind of a thing.
Out of the 3, who appears to be the less than... 4, because gotta include...
Please repeat what you said, because you cut out at the very end of your statement there.
Oh, inebriated? Who is the least inebriated?
Oh, of the crew? Of the crew?
Plus Mercy.
That would be up to the crew at this point. I think Blinder and Reaper both reached the equal levels of drunkenness, and then Blinder decided to back off of it a little bit. Did Reaper keep going, or did she also sort of back off of it?
No, she started backing off too.
Okay, so most of them seem relatively buzzed, but none of them seem like drunk and disorderly or anything of that variety. Like, they seem capable. They're just definitely a little buzzed, a little more joyous, like just sort of bopping around, having a good time. I presume this is the same thing for Martin as well? Or did Martin actually just say, F it, let's get fucking drunk?
No, Martin doesn't let himself get drunk.
Okay, cool. So yeah, it's basically the same thing. Yeah. They're definitely not as sober as Carver is, but they are definitely no longer drunk or as drunk as they were. That seems like a more definitive way of saying it.
So, Carver will kind of make his way over to Mercy.
Okay.
And he'll tap her on the shoulder and kind of point out the 3 individuals as discreetly as he can.
The rest of the crew seemed fine, but you realize now as you go towards Mercy that she is fucking hammered, and did not back off when the rest of you did. And she looks at you and speaks in Eruvian and says something, and you have no idea what she said. And she
like, you should take it easy. I'm gonna let the rest of the crew know.
Okay. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, my point in that was, you sit back, because she's been the one who's kind of been hammered.
Yeah.
So I'll walk over to Reaper first, kind of give her the what's up, and then after that, tell her to just keep going like it's nothing. Then I'll walk up, talk to Martin, do the same thing, eventually get up to Blinder and let him know.
And while
And,
that's going on, I will point out
yeah.
to Carver, while this is going on, you start talking to them and whatnot. You notice that they're moving closer to you guys. They're sort of coming in on you, slowly, as though they've been waiting for you to reach a certain place. And you realize this all at once as you're going down a pathway, and then you realize that you're sort of, not to say at a dead end, but you're at there's only one way in, which is the way you're coming in, and one way out, which is a stairway that goes up to the next level. You guys find yourself in a sort of corner space where you have the ocean on one side, a building and wall on another, a narrow stairway leading up, and the pathway you guys had taken underneath a sort of like awning over top of a pathway above you. And you step under that awning, and then you now see that one individual is ahead of you and two individuals are behind you, and they are moving in that moment. And I think that is where we are going to go to break. Before we left on our break, as I had said, the cast stepping down a pathway under an overarching sort of bridge above them of wood and planks and things of that variety. They step underneath this archway into a space, the ocean inky black on one side, with nothing there. A narrow staircase leading up to a section above that would presumably lead further into Tangletown, and the pathway that they had taken into the space. The three individuals descend upon them, one from the front, two from the back, and that is where we find our characters. In that moment, when you realize now, Carver, that in a sense you've been trapped, what do you do? You being the one that's been the most aware of what's going on. I remember you were saying that you had spoken to the other crew members, and you had said, I think we're being followed. Just act like everything's cool. What are you doing now, Carver?
Carver is assessing which of the entrance areas has more coverage on it, so to speak, as I'm assuming that these individuals are inbound enemies.
Okay.
He is going to be kind of as unsuspiciously as possible, readying blades beneath his whatever darkness or shroud he can kind of use to his advantage to arm himself up. And then under his breath, he says, "Get ready."
There's a moment when Carver says that. All of you are preparing, the adrenaline pumping through your veins. Your bodies stiffen for a moment in the same way that Reaper and Martin are very, very used to. Your muscles ready for a fight that is about to happen. You hear the footsteps quickly moving in. The person in front of you, both Reaper and Martin, realize now is the individual stepping down the stairway towards you. Something in his hand you can't quite see as it's hidden beneath most of his sleeve is the man that you had met earlier in the evening by the name of Wes. The man that had offered you a simple platter of food and said that he knew both of you and then tipped his hat and left. The two individuals moving up behind you also seem to be brandishing some blades that glint very quickly in the oil light that's set far up above you. The vast majority of the space that you're in, although open, allowing light to freely move through it, is still wreathed in shadows from the banister above, casting large pillars of shadow. The underhang as well is very dimly lit, very hard to see, and you see these shadows moving up behind you. Blinder had something that he wanted to do, and then I'm going to move to the rest of the crew and see how you are each planning to react, what you are each planning to do. Blinder.
He'll, grab Carver by the shoulder and trying to muster some semblance of coherency because he understands he's in a bad situation. He's very inebriated. And he's just like, they might not attack. Just, this is on you. I got confidence. I'm going to die.
Reaper, in that moment where Carver says, he said, get ready, I believe. What does Reaper do?
I'm going to... Which one is closest to me? The one in the front?
Most of them are still several feet away from you. None of them have specifically closed the distance close enough for close combat bouts. You presume at this point in time, if any amount of action is going to happen on either side, it's going to be one person dashing to the other to engage in combat or a ranged attack of some variety.
I'm going to walk towards one of the two that are approaching.
From behind you?
Us from behind? Okay. Yes, I'm going to rush right up to him, and I'm going to hit him.
Okay, so your plan is you're going to rush towards him in that moment and try to hit him. Okay.
Yeah.
Martin, what is your plan?
You're on mute. You're muted.
Yeah. Thank you. I messed that up. My bad.
It's okay.
My plan is to look around and to... Now, it says scary weapon or tool. I would like to try and pick up a like a chain, like a nice big hefty chunk of chain.
Sure. We'll say that there's... Oh, go ahead.
And then just kind of let it rattle. Just hoist it up and let it fall and let it rattle on the wood that I'm on.
The wood and the dock. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
We'll say that it's like hanging nearby, that it probably at some point it was attached to some twine or some rope. It was perhaps used to hold a boat that at one point docked nearby. You reach up, grabbing it from the underhang, ripping it off of the rope, wrapping it around your hand, and letting it fall to the ground, and that heavy clank of chains all meeting together on the floor, this wood underneath.
Yep.
Okay. So you all... Oh, I did not actually check in with Carver. Carver said that. Was Carver planning to do anything specifically to prepare, in a sense, in that moment?
Carver is not sure yet what their intentions are. However, it is pretty much going towards one place. They're walking behind and in front of us and have chosen a choke.
Mm-hmm.
And there seems to be weapons in their hands. Intentions haven't been made clear yet. So the second that those intentions become very clearly hostile, Carver will attempt to demonstrate how accurately he can hit targets from a distance with bladed weapons.
Okay, so his plan is to pull a knife and throw it. Okay. Checking in with Reaper, you had raised your hand. Was something up?
I'm going to... I'm not going to hit the person I come up to. I'm going to crack them hard across the face.
Okay.
And I'm going to make commotion. I'm going to start yelling.
Okay. Oh, like you're going to hit them and then start yelling?
Yes.
What is it that you plan to yell?
Basically, I'm going to yell, there's somebody attacking us, because I know this is Tingletown.
Yeah, sure.
And I know that anybody that attacks is going to get piled on by the other gangs. So
Sure.
I'm trying to call attention to what's going on.
Trying to draw people from other sections,
Yeah.
perhaps, or something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So in that moment, Blinder says what he's going to say to Carver. Martin dropping the chain on the ground. Reaper quickly turning, catching a guy in the face. You don't knock him out or anything. You surprise him and he backs off of it once you smack him in the face, losing some of the blow. But you made your point. Like, you've made your point now that you can strike him lightning quick. You start yelling. Mercy at this point is just taken back by everything that's going on, and the man in the front holding a weapon is now pointing it. You realize it's a gun as it comes poking out of his sleeve, and he is cocking it and pointing it at Mercy. From there, as you guys are standing in this moment, you start yelling. We don't want any of you. We just want him, they say, pointing at Martin. Give him up. We walk out of here quietly and peacefully.
How far is he from me?
The man with the gun that's saying this?
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
the man Wes that I had described, and he's the man walking down the stairways several feet away from you now. I'd say probably 10, 15 feet, because you had gone to the man behind you, and he's ahead of you. So he's definitely out of range for you to be able to quickly take an action against him. I'm going to check in with Martin really quick, though, because...
Okay.
Yeah. I saw the gun come out toward Mercy.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make it known that I am directly placing myself between her and the gun.
Okay. So you basically step in front of her and, like, hold up your hands. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in that moment when he was saying that, you saw that the gun was starting to turn, like he was going to turn it towards you, and then as soon as you step in front of Mercy, he draws it back to you.
I'm gonna start screaming at the top of my lungs, he's got a gun! He's got a gun!
At this point, you hear commotion and sounds going on in Tangletown, your feet coming this direction. In that same moment, Oh, Blinder, you have something? Go ahead.
I'm gonna nudge Carver. He knows I'm right next to him. Basically, he's like, "This is on you. This is Tangletown."
Okay.
Then he's gonna hide behind a box.
Okay. So Blinder, like, pushes Carver and then sort of hides for a moment. Okay. So the man had said what he had said. Reaper keeps yelling. Does anyone respond to the man and his request, I guess you could say? Or are people just not paying attention to what he had said at all? Like that you just don't care?
I don't care.
Okay, yeah. Reaper is continuing. Does anyone else, is what I'm asking. Does anyone else respond to him or anything of that variety?
What do you want to do with me?
I don't want to do anything with you. My employer wants you.
You thought it wise to come at me with a gun and knives.
I am told
When you could-
are a very dangerous individual, and so we should presume that you wouldn't come unless we used force. We did not know that you would have friends.
Who's your employer?
At this point, you hear the steps coming up, and now there are people standing over the banister, and a few people have walked down the way. And you see one man not running, basically, as everyone else comes over and they're looking over. You see the man holding the gun. He realizes there's people there now, and he slowly tries to slip the gun away into like a pocket or something. The rest of them putting their knives away and holding their hands like this, as though nothing had ever happened. Is that sort
I'm gonna point at the guy with the gun and point at him like this and be like, he's got a gun, he's gonna shoot us, and those other guys have knives. And they're gonna kill us. Help. Murder.
You say it just like that.
No.
Murder. Okay.
Murder.
All of the people are standing over. You can tell that the eyes upon these individuals now, this being a far corner of Tangletown, they thought that they would have some semblance of privacy, but it seems to have been completely ruined. People are rushing up, and then you see one man come walking to the edge. He's dressed, you would presume, as I described before, those individuals that you saw standing up and looking out that Mercy had pointed to. You see one of those individuals wearing dark colors comes walking up to the banister. He surveys the space. Doesn't say anything, just watching.
So I will gesture at all the people watching, and I'll let him know you can't take our friend. So what are we gonna do?
He pauses for a long moment, and then, raising up his hands, he looks up at the man, looks back at all of you, and then slowly starts to walk back up the stairway away from you. The other two individuals also backing away from you as well.
Blinder will stand up. Look over at Carver. Tangletown. Then go back behind his box.
Next time, maybe try not to shoot people in Tangletown.
He just looks back at you, and then looks away and keeps walking away.
I'll smile at him as he looks back at me.
Martin will kind of slump a little bit as there's no fight gonna happen.
Okay.
Drops the chain and kind of looks up at the guy who the other person was looking at, Wes was looking at.
Hmm.
Do I recognize this person?
No. You may have, if you were paying attention to what Mercy was saying earlier in the evening, you may recognize his face as one of the people that was standing up in the sort of balcony space looking over Tangletown with a few other individuals.
Okay. I'll just kind of look at him and then give him like a single hand gesture down to come down and talk if he wants to talk.
He turns from the banister, facing to the side, walks to the end of the railway where the staircase meets. At the same point, the man, Wes, is finishing up, and he sort of stops at the top. The man walks straight up to him, stops for a moment like he's contemplating, and then starts punching him, and just punches him to the ground, and then just starts beating him in the face. And just almost like there's this viciousness in the way that he's doing it, and he pummels this guy into the ground until you hear the breaking of the man's jaw. You can see the man lying in a puddle, sort of twitching. He's obviously not dead, but he's definitely badly wounded. The man stands up, pulls like a handkerchief from an inside pocket of his rain jacket, wipes off his knuckles, and then drops it on the man. And then turns and keeps walking. Mercy at that point goes, "Harlan!" she screams. He stops and turns back to the balcony, come walking and facing all of you. He looks for where the name came from. Mercy looks up at him and sort of does this like weird, awkward, drunken wave. And he just nods at her and then gives her one of these like, "Come on." And then turns around and starts walking again and disappears sort of out of sight.
You know that guy? Mercy?
That's Harlan. He's one of the crows. Remember the guy I told you I know? I know him from way back.
Oh.
He probably wants to meet you guys. I mentioned you guys to him, but he said if he had time. I guess now is the time.
Yeah.
I guess now is the time.
Yep.
So
Nothing like almost dying and going into another almost dying scenario. Let's do
We
this.
didn't almost die. Come on.
Yes, we did. He almost shot me. I seen it.
I presume you all follow Mercy then up the stairs, following the man known as Harlan.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you
yeah,
get to the
absolutely.
top, and it seems like he didn't even... I'll come back to you in a second, Blinder. I just want to describe this. It seems like he just doesn't even stop walking. Like he's just sort of like a slow sauntering pace, as though he's all the time in the world, is just slowly walking to the sort of thoroughfare and starts walking along it. And you guys, Mercy kind of gives you guys this motion, like, "Come on, catch up," sort of a thing. What was the thing you wanted, Blinder?
Blinder's gonna get up, thoroughly uncomfortable with being intoxicated
Mm-hmm.
as much as he is. Find a barrel of water, take off his bowler,
Sure.
and just push to try to,
Sure.
quickly sober himself up.
Yeah, we'll say you find like a rainwater barrel of some variety. I mean, it's a little
Yeah.
dirty. It's definitely not potable drinking water. It'd probably make you a little sick, but it's clean enough that you could dip your bowler in it and wipe yourself off, kind of, shock yourself awake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's like, slap himself a couple times, and then just look at the things like, 0 defects. Okay.
At that point, Mercy reaches over, smacks Blinder across the shoulder, and says, "Tangletown!" in the same way that he had done to Carver.
Tangletown.
So you all go following. You eventually catch up to Harlan. He continues walking sort of silently. Do any of you guys say anything, or like what is your plan?
I am quietly following behind.
Okay.
I think, excuse me. I think, well, we are not, myself, Reaper, and Martin, and Mercy are not.
He turns around and just puts up one finger and then pushes it all the way to Blinder's lips and just goes, "Shh. You're obviously drunk. Let's go sit down."
Good idea.
And then he turns and just keeps walking. Eventually brings you, it's not too far away. He eventually brings you to sort of it's another tavern, but it seems to be more associated with people getting food and things of that variety. Think of sort of a Greasy Spoon diner sort of vibe, just somehow, elaborately set on another dock or a portion of a ship. With places and a balcony going off onto the water, everything slowly floating as the entirety of Tangletown is. And he stops there for a second and looks at it, and then he's like, And then he turns and keeps walking. And now you find that he's heading actually further in towards the center of Tangletown to the actual barge itself, the old Leviathan hunting ship. And he eventually goes in there, and you see in one of as you guys spend some time following him, and he basically does the same thing, like he's looking for a place. He looks back at you to see if you're all like green or something like that, like super sick, and then he keeps pushing you on. Gladly, it wasn't too far for those of you that are sort of sick and tired of walking. But you come upon the actual old Leviathan ship, and there is on one section of it a sort of space that's been set aside that serves in the same variety, more like an actual restaurant. As nice as a restaurant can be on a ship, but it being on one of the old Leviathan ships means that there's this sort of history to it. There's the planks, even though they're dried and a bit dusty and worn from soot, there's this sort of resonation that you can sort of feel in these old ships. In most cases, people like yourselves aren't usually let this close to Leviathan hunting ships. Massive ships used to hunt basically massive monsters that exist in the ocean, heavily set with metals and steel and set by big thick timbers that form its inner bone structure, in a manner of speaking. And as you fall into this, you see a lot of that has been taken away, and it's this sort of central hub of Tangletown. It is much nicer, too, because it's set into this very large ship that is moored on the ground. It actually has more of a feeling of being an actual building, almost like for a moment when you forget that you're in the middle of this town, it's almost like you're just back on the shore. Obviously, because it's moored, there isn't that rocking, wavy sort of unease that is constantly giving your drunken nature, your drunken effects, this sort of nausea. And you immediately, as you step onto this old Leviathan ship, it once again feels like the earth. It's solid. It doesn't move. It doesn't shake. He walks you down, and you eventually find yourself at a somewhat nicer looking restaurant. Or at least as nice as a restaurant can be in Tangletown. And the bar owners seem to be a nice elderly couple. They give Harlan a nod. He nods back. They set a table up for all of you and set chairs out, counting your number as you walk through. And then they quickly bring food and set it down. And the food is rather nice. It's definitely better than the street gruel you've kind of had, rat burgers and mushroom mash. There actually seems to be like some actual protein outside of rat. It's goat meat and cheeses and things that may not be the Brightstone or White Crown equivalent of the fanciest, but it's definitely the much nicer side of Crowsfoot. I know that Blinder had raised his hand for a second. Was there something else that I should check in about real quick? Okay.
No,
so you all find yourselves there, and finally as you're sitting down and you're having this warm meal, most of you that are drunk, or your stomachs are settling, you're feeling better. Definitely for you, Blinder, you feel more awake. You feel more sure. As I had said, the solidness of the boat takes away that sense of nausea. And other than your own specific effects of your choices regarding your ritual, etc., you otherwise feel whole and okay for the time being. You find yourselves there.
Cheese?
Yes, thank you. Harlan says, cracking a smile.
Quite good.
Yes, I really like the raspberry goat cheese. It's very good. Try some. It is. It's the sweetness of the raspberry mixing with the bitterness of the goat cheese. It's rather good.
Excellent. That's quite excellent. Mr. Harlan.
Not Mr., just Harlan.
Harlan, I'm Reaper. This is Blinder. There's Carver and Martin. And you know Mercy.
Yes, he says as he nods to her. Where's Malone? He says to Mercy. Malone is dealing with Sash affairs, she says, sort of unsure. Sure. You were saying something, sorry.
Sorry about the tangle up there.
Why?
It's a little while ago. I didn't want any trouble in Tangletown.
You see, we all don't want trouble in Tangletown, but it happens. There are very few places that those in our lines of work can meet and not feel threatened. We like to provide that peace of mind. And for a piece of shit to use this place of neutrality to try and do business in the way that he did, he's glad he got the beating from me. Because if it was from my boss, he'd be dead and in the water.
Fair enough.
Shit happens, though.
Yeah.
It's Tangletown.
I wanted to bring my crew to get to know the crows a little better, what they're about, what sort of moves we can make to get a little bit more allied.
Looking to stake a claim in Crowsfoot?
We got Pond Street. We took out the toads.
Pond Street.
It's a small little area in X location. In Dunslow.
Oh. It's not our place.
It's a tough area, and we can use
Sure.
the alliances we can get. And I understand as I've said previously, I understand everybody has to pay somebody else.
Sure. Crows don't make moves outside Crowsfoot. Don't give a shit. It's not our place. This is our district. We do business here. You want to do business here, you do business with us. Everybody that does business here understands that. Anybody that fucks with our business, well, that's when we'll leave Crowsfoot, if we have to. But if you're doing business outside Crowsfoot, I wish you the best. Can't say that we'd be any help. If I'm speaking honestly. What do you got to say, nervous guy?
Yes. Okay. There is.
You're gonna hit me with a pitch, aren't you? Just
no.
take a moment. Take a moment.
Yes.
Take a moment. Just take a moment. I can tell you get ahead of yourself. Just take a moment. Breathe it in. Good food. Good place.
It's quite good. There was a question.
Now
of,
talk.
Mr. The bills, the bill hooks.
Sure.
Well, we have an opportunity, but obviously we are very starting a venture. We've had some small success, but
You
there are
guys
as
are
many.
Sorry. Go ahead.
But there are many individuals. If we make a deal, or we have an opportunity with any of the gangs that operate, we might, in turn, make enemies. Just from a professional experience, maybe advice. What is your assessment of bill hooks and their relationships that they manage, since they are from Crowsfoot, from my understanding?
The bills I like because the bills are earners and they pay. They don't fuck with my people. They don't fuck with my boss. They understand what's theirs and what's ours. And they respect that line. Gangs that don't respect that line are gangs that get burned to the fucking ground.
Mm-hmm. And while it is easy for them to respect a gang that is, according to the reputation I've heard from the Crows, more significant.
We're bigger, sure, yeah. But we're here. Crowsfoot. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do business outside.
Oh, I get this. I understand, and I completely agree. What is your assessment of the way they treat gangs that are not as powerful as even they are, or are they the kind to just push other gangs around, or are they the kind to enter an agreement and keep to that agreement and respect even those who would be willing to profit with them?
The Bills are maniacs, man. They'll do whatever they think they gotta do.
See.
So, I mean, if you get to the bad side of the Bills, rough life.
Yes. But
I mean, they're not that big, though. So, you know. Are you the...
No, I am just drunk and speaking.
Oh, sure. It's fair.
He's our accountant.
It's fair. I mean, as I said, I'm not boss. I guess the term would be like a lieutenant, right? Thinking of like military. I'm one of several individuals who have a specific job, task, etc. Most of my job is to make sure Tangletown stays good for business.
And a damn fine job you're doing.
Harder you, I think, right? That fighter?
Yeah.
I think I lost money on you.
I'm sorry.
Probably shouldn't have bet against you.
Well,
You
I have
guys
a question, if
understand?
I may.
Sure. What do you got?
I understand that the Crows own Crow's Foot. Do the Bill Hooks own Dunslow, or...
No, man. Bluecoats own Dunslow. Ironhook owns Dunslow. Why do you think it's a tough racket to get into? If it was easy, everybody'd do it. Those Bluecoats got that place in a vice. So that's not the Bill Hooks, not other little no-name gangs. That's who you gotta be worried about if you're doing business in Dunslow. You gotta be worried about the Bluecoats. Those corrupt, fucking nasty motherfuckers. I don't like Bluecoats.
Neither do I.
They ain't loyal to no one. Not to each other. Not to their superiors. Not to the fucking government that they're supposed to be serving. Each fucking Bluecoat only gives a shit about their own checkbook. And so, you know, word of the wise, I'd say even though you should be worried about the Bluecoats, if you can pay, you should be sitting pretty nice.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Appreciate it. And next time you want to have someone come talk to me, just ask them to come talk to me.
What are you talking about?
I was making humor about the gentleman you made an example of.
That was his purpose, is to obtain Mr. Martin here. Apparently there is some sort of recompense that somebody wished to take out on him.
I don't know nothing about that.
Didn't say you did. I was just saying that was a really nice job punching that dude in the face. I approve.
Sure.
Just congratulating you on some good work.
Violence is what makes us monsters, man.
It also keeps the bigger monsters from becoming a problem.
What's your name?
Martin MacCalister. Pleasure to meet you.
I've heard that name somewhere.
Oh, that's good. Means I'm getting around where I'm supposed to be getting around. I hope you heard good things about me.
Can't say that I have.
Hmm.
So what do you guys call yourselves? I had heard something about pond snakes or something.
We're the
The Risen.
Risen.
Sorry, you're both
In
talking at the
unison.
same time. What was that?
The Risen.
Oh. Risen. Sounds cool.
Apparently, we will have to, next time we make an example out of someone, we'll have to make sure that they remember that that is our name instead of concocting whatever fabrication that is being perpetuated about who we are.
I don't think you have to do that anymore. I mean, now that people are starting to put the face to the name, it's going to be a lot easier for people to know when it was you or somebody else.
True.
It's just, I hadn't seen your faces, but I heard about something that happened in Dunslow.
Well, that was us.
You guys catch any backlash from the Bluecoats about that?
Not yet.
I wonder.
Bluecoat.
Oh, go ahead.
Bluecoats rely on force and numbers. Their training and such is predictable and easy to avoid if you know how to.
Sure. Well, I got a couple other things I gotta do. Was there more you wanted to talk about, or was it just you were hoping that you want to work out a deal or something for some turf here in Crowsfoot, or I guess I think I misunderstood what you were asking for. What?
If I may, one moment, and he'll lean over to Reaper and be like, like do the whisper thing. It's like, I think this person would be a very good source of information. They don't leave Crowsfoot, but they certainly know everything that's going on. Perhaps an arrangement about exchanging information every once in a while?
We'd like to... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, he'll leave it to you.
I think what we're seeking here is a partnership, as sort of a information exchange network. You know what's going on in Crowsfoot. We know what's going on in our territory. We exchange information with the Bluecoats, anything we hear on the street.
We hear lots of things here in Tangletown. It's a melting pot of people, People come from all over.
Right. Right.
Think we could come to a reasonable arrangement? I guess it just depends. What is it that you're... The price. The price.
Price for information. Let me consult my bookkeeper, and I'll lean over and whisper to Blinder. This is Price. This is your territory.
I think we just exchange information and we tell him something that might be pertinent to his knowledge that he can pass on and profit off. And he in turn tells us something about possible... We're looking at kitting or procuring goods in Night Market. We're going to need to do this. Maybe he could suggest somebody who is ripe for the picking.
Information. We aren't looking for payment, but if you could give us information about the night market and perhaps any illustrious vendors, as it were.
And what are you going to pay
and we
me?
will
That's
in
what I'm
turn give
asking.
you information that you may need. Sorry, go ahead.
Hold on. We will give you information about the recent activities of tell him that we'll give him information about Velk I think Velk's presence in Dunslow recently would be of pertinent interest to him, especially since he is.
And we can give you information about Velk, who is in Dunslow. Is
That
that
old man still kicking around?
he is?
What do you got on Velk?
Mr. Velk normally doesn't. He prefers to keep his hands off of his rackets that he extorts. But he's been making frequent visits. Word about new gangs spreading into Dunslow. That is how you imagine we came upon the Toads. He seems rather concerned with these activities, and one second, I'm just researching my notes. Yes, he seems to be either looking, I would imagine, his motivations I don't know to me. Obviously, I'm not in Velk's head, but he's been making frequent visits and asking about gangs, moving situations in. So if there are gangs other than the Toads,
You got something more specific? I need the meat of the stew. I mean, everything you told me so far, I could just assume.
words that they're threatening his hold over rackets.
Which
so they may be played.
rackets?
These extortion schemes over the gambling, over the fighting pits, to be specific.
I didn't know Velk had a stake in the pits.
He's been extorting the gambling practices for quite some time.
See, that's useful information.
I'm sure that you could pass that on to somebody who could profit off of it.
Oh, I got a few ears that'd love to hear that, that's for sure. I can tell you what, though, the place that y'all are looking for is a place called Pearl Row in the night market. Northern side, where night market hits the 6 towers. It's near that, what's that clothing store? Doodridge?
Dundridge and Sons?
Yeah, that one. Down the street from that, different road off on the side. It, let's just say it's got a few businesses that are doing something on the side, I think. Because, I mean, pearls, sure. Pearls are one of the most expensive, stones in this day and age. But how they're making their money when people... I just wonder who's really buying that many pearls, you know? At the jewelry stores and the other places, you know, clothing stores, things like that. It just seems weird. They're doing really, really well, but they're so far away from the center of town, and they're so close to the 6 towers. Might be something you might want to check into. Is that a decent quid pro quo, I think is the term, right?
Yes, you are correct, and yes, I believe. Looks over at Reaper.
Yes.
Pearl Row.
Now, if you excuse me,
You don't get to dramatically leave my dinner. I get to dramatically leave my dinner, okay?
Oh, very well.
Enjoy your food, he says, and then he stands up and he walks away.
As soon as he's out the door, I have to throw up. He gets up. It stumbles. Now, like, looking for
Make
a place.
sure you keep the rat.
Okay.
Oh.
From here, I presume that the characters will eventually find themselves back at the gondola. Are you hanging out Okay, so you find yourselves back hidden by night to the gondola that you had rented. You eventually find yourself back traveling towards Dunslow, I had presumed? Okay.
Yes.
You travel back towards Dunslow, using the cover of night, the darkness of the ocean to cover your trail. Doesn't seem like... I mean, there are a lot of boats coming and going constantly to Tangletown. It's very easy to slip into the darkness and night and into the massive scurry of these ships coming in and out. You see ships heading across the canalway towards Silk Shore, which you can see in the distance is illuminated by lights glowing radiantly. The crackling of the tower, of the electrical towers overhead, and you see something in the sky sparking through the air. And Blinder's head perked up at that.
That's not the normal, because the electric, what's it called? The lightning barrier doesn't go. It's not a dome.
No, it is a dome.
It is a dome.
It is a dome, yes. But generally,
So-
like, there's a current, yes, but there's not necessarily sparks or bolts that fly down into the sky.
So that's what this is. It's like sparks and
Yes,
bolts.
you see it
flying
looks
down.
like lightning bolts are shooting down into the air. It's hitting something in the air and sparking, and you can see it in different. It's almost like fireworks or pyrotechnics. Carver recognizes this event. This is a 3-day event that is a once-a-month circus that is held in the Silk Shore that takes place around Ankanyat Park, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm unsure of how to pronounce the specific name. But it is like, think of the Central Park of New York. It is basically that park, and nearby there's a specific circus that has a spectacular show that are called the Lightning Riders or something of that variety. And they're basically people who go up in big, like kites, manned kites in a sense, and that have metal shavings all across them and pieces of metal set into it, and they fly up, down, and near and up, back up towards the lightning barrier, and it shoots down these arcs of lightning into these kites that spark offward like fireworks, sending, like a very dizzying and sort of a mystical sort of spark of energy, and they create shapes in those bolts, and they do a very, very spectacular sort of aeronautic show, in a manner of speaking. And it usually happens about once a month, and it happens for 3 nights.
Circus.
Let's go see the circus. I'm gonna go see the circus.
We have only. It is. Well,
That's really
You
more
have to go throw up.
festival, anyways.
It's not like we have a whole lot going on right now. Let's go watch the circus.
Yeah.
In the state you're in, really, all 3 of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Mercy?
I mean, Mercy's kind of laying there at this point. I mean, we still got 2 more nights. We don't have to go tonight, she says as she's
So
like,
how about
laying
you
in the
guys
boat.
go home and the rest of us will go see the circus?
Sure.
Let's not split up too much.
We split up earlier.
I know, but this is at least somewhere that's relatively safe. We go somewhere that's not.
Oh, that's fair.
We get outnumbered. We get outnumbered somewhere where we can't yell, "He's got a gun! He's got a gun!"
That's fair.
Yeah. Also remember that we were just basically attacked on neutral ground. So imagine how confident assailants
Well, they-
feel on, their own territory.
Mercy chimes in. Point of order. They tried to attack us, and I'm Mercy. Reaper punched them in the face. So technically, we did the attacking.
That's
Yeah.
true. I did hit first. Yeah.
She
High
says,
five.
High
High
five.
five.
She high fives you.
Yeah.
And she's like falling backwards.
I
on her.
wouldn't go around advertising that, because then that just makes us look like the assholes.
I know. Yeah. It was, yeah.
Maybe we want to be seen as the assholes.
Why would we want to be seen as the asshole?
Because everybody that matters already knows what happened. We got to gain a rep. We can't be nice guys.
We can't tell people that we broke Tangletown, because then the crows will have to make an example of us.
Okay, well, maybe that's a bad idea then.
We'll just let the rumor be what it is.
Agreed.
Yeah, all they know is that some people tried to rob some people and other people said no.
Well said. And then Reaper.
Technically, that
or
is
not
the
Reaper,
truth.
I keep saying Mercy and Reaper. Mercy then just lays in the boat, and you can see that she's like sort of slowly falling asleep.
I pick up Mercy and I take her to a bed where she can actually sleep.
Oh, you guys are still in the gondola.
Oh,
Right.
Look,
right.
There you go.
What
Because
I'm
you were like,
saying
where
here
are we
is that
going?
we're not quite in the position where we're made individuals yet. We don't have the luxury of being able to nonchalantly go about daily life without worrying about where the knives are hidden. If anything proves this, today has been an event that proves it.
I concur. It was fun, but I think in the future we should be more careful about where we lose our senses.
You know, if you think about it, says Mercy, if you think about it, it worked out great because you got to talk to Harlan. Because I didn't even know if Harlan was going to talk to you guys. But the whole thing ended up, you got to talk to Harlan. So, you know.
We call that timing
In the business.
Yeah.
in the business.
What business are you in? Says Mercy to Carver.
We beat up bad people.
The same business you're in.
Blinders. I think Blinders just said he's a vigilante.
I wouldn't be surprised.
We are actually. Well, not really. Kind of. No.
No, we are. We did that, and that is why we're in this pickle.
We just take from people who are greedy and give it to people who are poor,
That's fair.
and try to make a little money on the side.
And Mercy just falls asleep, basically. Like, and you hear her snoring.
And I'll help Martin basically carry.
So yeah, you guys will eventually land on shore, and you'll carry Mercy into. I presume you're landing somewhere near Pond Street, probably not right next to Pond Street Pub, but somewhere nearby the neighborhood.
Let's use the
Oh no! Let's use the secret hatch near the.
Okay, are you guys going to? Are you going to? Where are you going to put the gondola then? Are you going to leave it?
We're gonna give the gondola
not gonna
back
leave
to
it
the
there.
guy.
The guy is
But
back
yeah.
in Crowsfoot.
Oh,
I'll take the gondola back. We're
Like
just gonna
tomorrow.
load everybody up in the canalway.
Yeah, you could just take it back tomorrow morning. We'll say. You rented it for like the entire night and day, basically. 'Cause it was nighttime. when
But
you rented
otherwise,
it.
for stashing the gondola, we'll put it some ways away.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Was like, where do you want to stash it so that it doesn't draw attention? Just because in Dunslow it's not as common to have like nice looking gondolas sort of nearby, so maybe you like park it at a dock, or you like actually pull it up onto shore, we'll say, and like hide it under some stuff or something.
But we can. It's big enough. The entrance is big enough to
Not to fit a boat.
not to fit a boat. Okay.
No. You guys have to hunker down to get through it, and a boat is too wide, especially the one that would fit 5 people in it. It's way too wide. Okay, so you guys stash the boat, you head to the secret entrance in the canalway, and then you head inside the hideaway. I presume you eventually find yourselves. Have you guys decided which room, like if you're taking rooms as bedrooms, or what have you decided, crew?
I'm definitely gonna try to make myself my own bedroom in there somehow.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a space. Pick the space that has the most room for like a wardrobe or a closet. Definitely making a space for myself here.
Blinder's gonna go upstairs.
This is the hideaway. Sorry for that. That was me being like, sorry, this is taking so long. Yeah. Anyways, so yes, this is an image of the hideaway, like at least the hidden portion of the hideaway, and that's why I decided to pull it up, is because I was interested in knowing in what you guys had decided you might do with it over time. My plan is to eventually have a much nicer sort of hand drawn. Looking one be the one that we use consistently, but at least for now you guys can gauge generally what the layout looks like, so you kind of know what you're working with here, in a manner of speaking. Yeah, cool. So with that, would you guys have decided, like, did Blinder end up turning the study into a bedroom, or is he leaving it as like a neutral room?
He left it to put the books back on the shelf and so forth. You've during the time that we were cleaning up and everything like that, he was definitely mentioning that he had to procure at some point, although he did not manage to because of everything they were busy doing cleaning. But he would be leaving it as a study, but he would not be using it for the time being because they had no lights. Like he needs like more lighting, and it needs more lighting.
I presumed in the 2 days that had passed during that time of downtimes where you guys were cleaning everything, you probably would have brought in oil lamps and stuff. We'll say that wasn't enough, and so you guys are still bringing in more. But yeah, sure, sure. Okay.
And then, so yeah,
excellent. Okay, so that was just a general idea, both for the audience and the cast, of what the hidden area of the hideaway looks like. Minus the study, there's definitely enough for 4 bedrooms. There's also the large sections. That section that you saw on the map, that's the large room, and it has the 2 sections of wall that comes in. That's sort of an archway of stone that's meant to hold up that large open space with like a keystone archway that goes over the top, and that's what sort of separates the much larger space of the room to the much smaller space. Those 2 nooks that I was showing was the spaces I had said that looked like they were where someone was doing some sort of production work of some variety, like tables and things of that variety, like they were producing drugs or something like that. And then the rest of the space just had boxes, like it was a sort of storage space set off there. So yeah. So you guys turn in, I presume, for the evenings, all finding yourself in sort of bedrooms that you had basically set up for the night, or had been set up over the last few nights. Where are you guys setting Mercy up at?
I'll give her my room. She can sleep in my room.
Okay, and then you just like pull up a cot in one of the like sort of nooks off in the big space. Okay, cool, sure.
Yeah.
You pull up a cot in one of the nooks. You let Mercy. You just sort of set drunken Mercy into your bed, tuck her in, and crash out for the night. Okay. With that, I believe I wasn't sure how we wanted to go about it, but I'm going to specifically prompt Doug regarding a discussion that we had previously. Would it be appropriate for that scene that we had discussed to be what is happening in the night and in the next morning? Would that be how you want to go about that?
sure.
Okay. Then I am going to say that the night passes, and then I will, in this instance, in a sense, sort of pass the torch onto Doug in this moment to allow him to describe what he had in mind for the scene. And then I will move forward from there.
In the middle of the night, upstairs, Blinder falls asleep. The still sort of rickshaw nature of the bedroom, kind of the windows, the shutters blow open, and Blinder comes sitting up, clutching his head, screaming. He runs over to the windows, he shuts it, he paces probably for like half an hour or more. The noise, because everybody's downstairs in the thing, right? He grabs a candle and heads downstairs. And depending, I don't know who would, if anybody would wake up in the middle of the night.
The
But he
space
spends-
isn't soundproof, so they definitely would have heard the screaming and the pacing and all of that upstairs. I mean, there is stone between, but it does not eliminate the noise. So if Martin, Carver, Reaper, etc. chose to, it would be totally understandable that their characters may have woken up or been aware of what was happening in
Maybe
some
they heard,
form or
yeah, they
fashion.
heard something,
Yeah.
and then like it died down probably like about 20-30 minutes later, and everything goes quiet. The door creaks open very quietly, purposely, trying to not arouse noise. A couple seconds later, the study door opens and shuts. Anybody else who would have woken up during the night would hear panting, maybe some sort of heavy breathing, moaning, but nothing, no screaming or anything like that. Coming in a soft candle lit under the seam of the study.
Martin wake up?
Probably not. Well, actually, no. Considering he's sleeping basically out there, yes, he would have. Because he's not in bed right now. He's in a weird little cot.
Carver will kind of turn, look at Martin, look over at the door, listen to the sounds coming from it for a second, go. I don't know if I want to walk in on that.
I'm not sure if I want to either.
I walk in.
To the study where Blinder is?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I presume Martin and Carver were sort of pseudo whispering to each other, not talking in full voice, and they're like, "Hey!" And then Reaper just opens their door, walks out, and then walks into the study.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are they standing at the threshold, or is it very rare that all three people are
For
observing?
so far, Carver and Martin have not moved from where they were. Only Reaper has moved, but there was whispering going on in the hall. So that probably was potentially a little bit audible, but you wouldn't be sure what they were saying. There is obviously probably a lamp in the hallway to light the hallway and the walkway, and so you do see sort of shadows cast, if you are paying attention, Blinder, to the bottom of the doorway. Then simply the door opens, creaking open on its old, unoiled hinges, and Reaper is standing there, sort of bathed in the silhouette of light behind her, into a somewhat dark room with a single candle probably in the far side.
You see single candle. Blinder is on the stone ground. He's sort of curled up in a he's like kind of leaning in a sort of like half fetal position, not quite, because he's very tall, and he just looks like he's holding this like a feather pillow around the back of his head, right, trying to muffle his ears, and he's just staring. He's sweating profusely. He looks like he's terrified, like not like just normal, like skittish or scared. Like he's like stark terrified. Like he looks like he's looking at his own death.
Do I see any signs of like anything weird that you were doing around the study?
There's kind of a blanket that's pulled up. It looks like he was trying to sleep on the floor.
Okay,
And he
I
has
will.
sitting in a very prominent position on the floor right in front of him.
Oh, I will close the door again.
Okay.
Yep, that's exactly it too.
Definitely masturbation.
I will go over to Martin and Carver and be like, he's staring at a candle and losing his mind in there. So I would leave him alone for a little while.
Good
I'm
to
gonna
know.
go grab the necklace.
Carver is grabbing the necklace from the toy that he had hid it inside of in his bag.
I am going to see if I can hear anything. I'm going to listen very, very hard.
Okay, but what are you doing with the necklace? Is
Holding it.
What you're just holding it in your hand,
Yeah,
like you're holding it, like it's
Like,
in your palm.
solidly holding.
Okay, I didn't know if you were putting it around your neck or wrapping around your wrist or just holding it in your hand or.
Oh, if
loosely.
this doesn't work, I'm gonna put it around my neck. But
While you're holding it in your hand, yeah, it's basically nothing.
so I'll put it around my neck and start trying to listen.
Where are you
Yeah.
standing when you put it around your neck?
I am standing right outside of the study door.
Okay. For the first time, Reaper and Martin watch something they have never seen before. Only Blinder had seen it, and even Carver had never seen it because he had always been sleepwalking. Carver places the necklace on top over his head, and the moment that it touches his collarbone, resting onto his chest, there's this almost relief you see from Carver. And then all at once his body convulses backwards, like his hands fall out behind him, like almost like a puppet with its strings being let loose, and his hands go backwards. And then there's this blue glow that just shines from this necklace. And in that moment, in the other room, Blinder, as he's holding this pillow to his head, he can only hear slight whispers dulled by the sound, even though the pillow barely seems to help. There is a moment where, all at once, as though a great bell rings, not in the actual bellwether crematorium, but like all at once, just the striking of a note, just poof, blasts through the air in a way that resonates in the ghost field. And Blinder feels it. He hears it. Even though he is not attuned, he feels its ripples vibrating and pushing like a sound wave through the space, across every single stone, through the doorway, cascading into the room. And he hears screams and yells, people yelling at him and saying his name, saying, "Ezra, Ezra, Ezra." And they're screaming at him, almost, and he sees flashes and pictures. And these things that I'm describing, Carver sees as well, but not from the perspective of Blinder. He sees them like he's standing outside of the room, like he is, but he's seeing people walking past him, charging and running, pushing other people out of the way, and they're screaming Blinder's name. They're screaming Ezra, and they're pushing each other and fighting each other and viciously, like, trying to make space to get to him. And they're pushing their way into the room until there's no space left, like a packed event or something like that. They're squeezing past each other, and all Blinder can see is this mass of bodies pushing towards him, their hands outstretched and poking him and grabbing him and groping at him, trying to pull him to what they're saying. And in those moments that he's touched, he hears their voice clearer for a moment, and then it changes to another. You once again gain your ability to move. Your hands are no longer outstretched. They slowly start to rest at your side, Carver. And you, for the first time ever, hear the voices. You hear them speaking. Yes, yelling, but speaking clearly. There's a whisper constantly around you, saying Ezra's name. And then all at once, as though someone was speaking to Ezra, it changes. the words slowly changing, becoming dull notes, until you hear it saying, Zacharias. 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 Blinder hears it too. And at once, the people who are pushing against him stop, almost though they're frozen. And they back away in this sort of like, they're frightened by Blinder for a moment all at once. Like they're just moving away in this sort of inhuman way, monstrous way. They're descending away from him like a pack of spiders moving through the space. And then they surround Carver and they are looking at him and they are chanting his name, not in harmony. There's a dissonance. Blinder, the voices are no longer overpowering you, and you can hear them clearly, almost like a chorus. They're looking for him, just like they're looking for you. But there's no malice in their voices like when they were speaking to you.
During the
What does Blinder
groping
do? Yes,
and
sure.
and so forth from the halls of the study, from inside the study, you could hear an unearthly scream, howling. No, no, no! Stop! Why? And then just the scream becomes so heart-wrenchingly painful that words cannot even be enunciated over the howls. It sounds like pain coming from the deepest core, like a person being flayed. You hear the slap of bare flesh against concrete as his feet go scrambling away, as his hands go hitting the walls in a flailing insanity. And then it stops. And he is staring almost catatonic at the burning candle. Tears running down his face, covered in sweat. Almost like he is being caressed by the stone cold floor. Like it's familiar to him. And you see his eyes close in sleep.
As his eyes close, the last of the whispers end, Carver, and you at once hear a voice angrily scream, as though it's been screaming and moving, as though someone is running past you. There's this scream, and it just screams, no. And then you feel the necklace get ripped from your throat by seemingly nothing. The light fades. Reaper and Martin, what you saw was the strange blue. You heard all the sounds that Blinder and Carver was making, but all the other things you didn't see. All you saw was this faint blue light, and then these sort of shadows almost in the corner of your eyes moving through the space, almost like every candle was flickering, every oil light was for a moment going damp. There was a cold chill through the whole space, as though like a sheet of ice had been placed over you. That same feeling that you once had when you were in the presence of the ghost, and you felt its initial chill and that initial fear overcome you, and then you tried to fight it. That's what you felt in this space, but you didn't see a spirit. You didn't see a ghost. You're left there, Carver, as the necklace is ripped from your throat by something or someone. It falls to pieces, its leather cord falling apart on the ground. It smashes. It breaks into fragments by some great force. 3 large fragments.
He falls to his knees. His hands are limp at his sides, and as he's trying to piece everything together in his head, what just happened, you can tell that he's a bit overwhelmed. He wasn't expecting what happened. And you kind of get the sense that there was more that happened in that moment to him and to Blinder than what you personally experienced.
After the scream, I'm gonna open the door and check on Blinder once he's asleep. And I'll see he's asleep and I'll close the door back again.
In that moment
Sorry.
of all those things that had happened, no, you're fine. Carver had moved to the doorway. So basically, we'll say that he steps backwards and falls to his knees. So you step past him. The doorway's open, though, and you see Blinder is laying inside asleep. Did you have something, Doug?
I actually wanted to ask you. So you see the candle. The candle's burning actually quite low now because he's been in here for a little bit of time. You see next to it, like there's 3 more candles that have been lined up in very precise order. Do you just leave the candle there, or?
Yeah, I'm not touching anything. I'm just
Okay.
letting him. As long as there's nothing flammable around the candles, I assume that they'll burn out by themselves, and I won't have to worry about it.
Martin is checking in on Mercy to make sure she's okay.
Or she slept through the whole thing.
Awesome. And then moving his cot closer to Blinder's room,
Okay.
and kind of sleeping in the area just to kind of keep an eye on him.
I will say that although the necklace by some force was broken, Carver, you will find that throughout the night while you sleep, you do hear something speaking to you, as though it's a voice outside of a window whispering towards you, trying to get your attention. The nagging feeling that you had once had becomes clearer, and you hear a voice. No longer in your dreams, but it is there, it's just far away. You can't quite make out what it's saying, but now you know it's saying something. I think with Blinder having fallen into darkness, in a sense, Reaper and Martin left to wonder what exactly just took place here. And Carver, now realizing a gift that he had had all along, was unlocked by taking a chance. I think that is where we will leave tonight's game.